I'm Liz Primo, and this is Canadian Gardening. This week we're exploring a prairie garden with a natural look as magnificent as the meadows and mountains that surround it. Also coming up, the designer of our prairie garden used over 100 tons of sandstone in creating his desired effect. Rocks can add a new design element to any garden. We're going to talk about choosing them and placing them. All this and much more. Stay with us. Here I am in the foothills of Alberta, which is all big sky and rugged prairie terrain. Tonight's garden is part of a new trend called natural landscaping, which is simply low-maintenance landscaping that fits with the environment. Let's go meet the designer and see how he mimics Mother Nature. Landscape designer Doug Burgoyne specializes in natural landscaping. Here in rural Pritis, outside of Calgary, he's built a prairie garden for oilman John Woods and his family. Doug, what were the owner's requirements here when you were called in on this job?
They wanted us to create something that looked like it had always been there.
The large property is surrounded by farmland. After construction of the house 3 years ago, they were left with a large bare patch and decided this would be their prairie garden.
They wanted a water feature to make their property more dynamic. They thought they'd like the sound of the water flowing over the rocks. And they said at maturity it should look like it had always been there, so that was the most important factor.
Doug hauled in over 100 tons of sandstone rock. He divided the garden in half with a waterfall and stream. But the real challenge was in the rock placement.
Well, it's definitely an art form to be able to place the rock so it looks like it's always been there.
So you're trying to place the rock in the same way as it was placed in nature so that it's comfortable, in effect.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is they've got 180 ton in a pile and they're trying to pick rocks, so you're not always going to take the first rock and put it in place. Right. Sometimes you have to try 4 or 5 rocks till one fits.
How on earth do you move big rocks like this around?
We're able to use a bobcat with a 5-foot wide bucket that can take up to a 12 to 1,500 pound rock, and anything bigger than that we need to bring in a crane truck to place the rock.
Now, you call this a natural landscape, but what is this under the gravel, the pea gravel that's here?
Okay, this is a geotextile product, and it's called filter cloth, and we buy it in large 12-foot rolls from a local manufacturer, but...
Well, it looks like rock.
Yeah, no, that's the cloth.
Okay.
And it allows the moisture through, but the weeds cannot come up.
Most of the plants around here are natural plants. But I notice also that you have a lot of really wonderful little rocks, like this guy right here. And they're beautifully arranged. What are they?
Okay, this is called ironstone, and...
Nice color.
Yeah, I really like it. It goes well with the sandstone. But the problem is, like, if you have too much mulch, it looks kind of plain in itself. And that's not the whole idea of this. This is more of a functional material than it is aesthetically pleasing. So to make it look nicer till the plants mature, we add the ironstone for the textural difference. And again, there's a bit of an art form to placing this. I mean, anybody can just throw it on, but my staff usually laughs at me when I tell them how to place it because I say it should look like it has just fallen off a cliff, or the water has eroded the soil away, and this is the, what's underneath the ground.
Close to the house, Doug planted a colorful perennial garden. Tell me about the kind of plants you chose.
It's nice to have plants with different textures. For gardeners who don't know that much about plants, you can generally not go wrong in a hot, dry location if you choose plants with a silver or blue foliage. We've tried to supplement it with different flowering perennials. This is silver brocade, and I think it looks quite nice.
Artemisia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Doug, you seem to have chosen some low-maintenance plants for this part of the garden.
Yeah, this is a dwarf Arctic willow, and I'm just going to nip a bit of it off here, but you can see the nice sharp point on it and the bluey-gray foliage. Makes a nice contrast, nice textural difference to the rock. Another plant we like to use a lot in low-maintenance gardens is the sedums. And this is the dragon's blood sedum. You can see it's just finishing to flower, but your eye kind of starts with the reds and then goes to the backdrop on the dwarf Arctic willow.
That's nice. Now that's the introduction of a plant that is really quite cultivated. You see it in a lot of cultivated gardens. I noticed you had a few plants like that interspersed through here. And I noticed you had crab apples.
It's kind of a one-dimensional garden now for summer color, so we want to introduce some spring color, and obviously these crab apples aren't native to this area. And we've got some different varieties. There's a Dolgo crab that has the white blossoms, and then we have the Rudolph crab with the pinkish red blossoms. So come late spring, you've got the different pink and white, and it looks quite nice.
That'd be nice. This looks so natural, but then I can't help but look over my shoulder and see this gorgeous natural garden behind us. This is Mother Nature at its best with all these truly natural plants.
I mean, for me, it's very humbling to see that, you know, I mean, this is what has always been here, and we're trying to work with that and create something that looks as natural as possible. And natural just refers to an effect that's pleasing to the eye.
This is HGTV Canada.
Rocks are a natural part of the landscape, whether it's pebbles in a stream bed, great outcroppings on a hillside, or a few lazy rocks in a pond. But while Mother Nature knows how to do this just right, it's a little more challenging to get it looking natural in your own garden. With me today to help us is Joe Milo, a rock expert. Joe, what are the different ways that people can use rocks in their garden?
Because you can use rocks in so many ways, it's hard to describe them all. You can have rocks for retaining walls, for sculptures, steps, bridges, patios. There is no end to what rocks can do.
Now, how do you actually get them to look natural?
As far as making it natural in the garden, you have to have all the undisturbed edge facing you. And if you have any gaps in between different rocks, fill in with growth, such as rock replants, moss on the shade, and other perennials that will fit the particular spot.
So there's a right way out for rocks. They have a back and a front then.
Yes. When you extract the rock, there is the part of the rock which has been exposed to nature. That surface looks very natural and normally very smooth. That is the part that you should expose to the front.
Are there different families of rock or different colors of rock? Should they mix and match them?
Actually, they should never mix. You can match. The important thing is you pick up rocks that come from the same family. Even if there is a difference in texture, a difference in color, as long as they come from the same quarry, normally they work in harmony.
You know, something I've always wondered in using rocks myself is whether they affect the soil, you know, whether the mineral content of them affects the soil in any way.
Absolutely. They can affect the soil in a great way. There are rocks which are very rich in mineral content. The plant can grow right off the rock without any soil.
What would you say is the most popular look in rocks today?
I would say the Muskoka look is by far the most popular. You can do a rock garden, a waterfall, rock sculptures, benches, steps, creeks, and plan it all the same way as nature does.
Joe, what would you say is the most popular use of rocks in gardens today?
The most popular use of rocks today is on waterfalls and rock gardens, including steps and all other parts of the landscaping. When you start to work with rock, people like consistency.
But people like that Canadian Shield look because it's because of the warmth of the granite.
Yes, the warmth of the granite is beautiful because it has almost a wood color. It's very warm, very friendly. And when it is smooth, sometimes you get a beautiful rock and you sink part of the rock in water. And when you have the rock part in the water, the reflection of the pinkish colors on the bluish water really reflects. And this is one of the things that most people really love it.
Thank you, Joe. I hope we've taken a bit of the mystery out of working with rocks and stones for you today. The point is, don't be intimidated. This isn't Stonehenge. Get to know your local quarry or its distributors and add a touch of stone to your garden.
Hello, my name is Stephen Westcott Grattan, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes today about one of the stars of the autumn border, Sedum spectabile. Most of you are likely familiar with that particular species, and you'll likely be equally familiar with some of the ones used in rock gardens, which are much smaller and tend to bloom early in the season. However, with Sedum spectabile, we find ourselves with a wonderful succulent, unlike other herbaceous perennials, with these wonderful inflorescences of color that come late in the season, opening pink and turning a deep red as the season progresses. This is called spectabile, and the cultivar is named Autumn Joy. There's another cultivar which is very much like this plant in habit, but it has the advantage of having variegated leaves. And here you can see I have some cuttings, and it's very much like a house plant in that it's easily rooted in water, like many tropicals. These cuttings of Sedum medio variegata have been rooting in water for about 3 weeks now, and as you can see, we're getting some nice adventitious root growth here. They'll be ready to go in the ground anytime soon, but I think to be on the safe side, I'll put them in a pot for a few weeks first to make sure they have a really good root system. Now we're ready to start planting our cuttings, and in order to do that, we need very little. Just a clean terracotta pot with some soilless mix inside. Soilless mix is really just largely peat moss with vermiculite and perlite thrown in for aeration and water retention. And the main advantage of it is that it doesn't have any soil-borne organisms which you might have in your regular garden soil. So, quickly, we just need to poke a few holes in where the stems will be going down. Grab our cuttings, which have had all the bottom leaves removed, and place them in. A lot of people like to use a transplant solution, which is largely made up of phosphorus, which encourages root development, but since this plant is a succulent, it's really unnecessary, and I'm not going to bother today. Now that all the cuttings are in place, I will put this in a cool, shady spot in the garden and keep it well watered for about 3 or 4 weeks, after which time the plants should be nicely rooted and ready to go directly into the ground outside. For Canadian Gardening Television, this is Stephen Westcott Grattan.
I am not ashamed if some boys call it a Frankenstein residence, because it is a back-to-nature style. And I go with it. I bring some orange colors and try to give a bit atmosphere of the season. My garden is rather an atmosphere than a style. I use rustic materials, but it is not a country style in a deeper sense. Firstly, I want atmosphere, nature, and I would call the atmosphere back to nature. And I love, anyway, I love branches, nature, I love grey wood, driftwood in particular, and some stones have beauty in stands. There is a simplicity in the stone which I appreciate. Most people don't. There is many materials which have a very nice effect without being pretentious. This thing is a broken drum or two, which I made a flower pot out of it. This lantern was given me by my neighbor, and I hanged it in the right size, and immediately it was a focus. And now it's half grown over, but I love it. The main, I'm almost say, architectural solution for this entrance is this work here. These are all branches. There's growth nothing but over. Immediately, when I see something, I see the effect. And then I made it again. I get the negative critics. Somebody said, "Ah, that is for cows to drink out. The flowers were not in it." And I said, well, that's exactly the country effect I want to have. The ivy is a curtain, and it's a very nice effect when you look in summer out and the sun shines against it. It keeps you cool. So I like this meeting of civilization and nature. That is what I enjoy the most.
This is HGTV Canada.
Canadian Gardening is the only magazine for you and your garden. Each issue is packed with the tips and techniques you'll need to build beautiful and healthy gardens, no matter where you live in Canada. For the novice or seasoned professional, it's all here in the magazine written specifically for Canadians. To order Canadian Gardening, just call the number on your screen. You'll receive 7 issues for just $22.95 plus GST. If you prefer to order by mail, send a check or money order to Canadian Gardening, Canada's leading gardening magazine.
These are great.
Hi, welcome to Calgary. I'm Grant Smith, and today we're going to plant up an alpine garden trough. We're using this pot, and eventually we're going to end up with either one of these or one of these. First thing we're going to do is put in a bunch of rock in the bottom of our pot. All we're doing with that is creating a good drainage basin, okay? Having done that, we're going to add a mixture of peat moss and sand. And they're probably almost 1-to-1 rate. I'm just going to fill the pot up with that. You can see I've already mixed the sand in there, so it's nice and porous. A little bit more of that. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Now, we're working with a different sort of rock today. We're working with something called tufa. Tufa is a very porous rock that you get from springs and riverbeds, things like that. And you can grow plants right in it. This pot that we've got here is something called hypertufa, or I like to call it tufa with attitude. And hypertufa is a mixture of concrete, sand, and peat moss. So again, it's very porous, and it's a little bit lighter than normal concrete. Okay? Now, we've got our soil in there, we've got our rocks. This is where we get to be artistic. You're just looking for some interesting bits of rock, neat little pieces of tufa that you can place in the pot, somewhere just kind of intriguing. Like buried in there a little bit so it's got some stability, maybe something like that. And I like to do some angles on these too. Just a little bit of a Grand Canyon look to it. A Rocky Mountain, since we're in Calgary here. Now we're ready to put in some plants. I've got a few alpine perennials here. First one I've got is called Arabis styria, or creeping wallcress. Very small, doesn't take much rooting. This is important here. These things grow in the tops of the mountains. All right, get it out of the pot. You're going to see there's not a lot of root needed for most of these. Just take the plant, break away some of that excess soil. Get down to where the roots of the plant are. Okay, now we need to find a neat place to put it. Tuck it in there, maybe over there. I think right in this. It's probably as big a one as we'll use. We'll just tuck it right in there, okay? Just work it into the soil. The last thing we're going to do with this today is we're going to put some sand or chicken grit or something decorative on the top. These plants will rot if they're sitting directly on the soil because it's just too much moisture for them. They want to stay nice and dry. Seed them. This one's a bit of a mess right now, so maybe we'll just cut off everything but the new growth. It's going to be bigger than our pot wants, I think. We're just going to break some more of that out. There, we got a nice little tufty flower section. It's even got a little piece of flower on there right now. And this one is going to become a corner pin, I think. We'll tuck it right in there. So I'll just make a little hole for it. Tuck it in. There we go. Now you can see, it's not a crowded look. It's a very clean look we're looking for. All right. You know, they almost have a sort of a bonsai kind of look to them, these gardens. Very nice, very gentle. Now, the last step before we add our water is a ground cover, something to make it look a little better, keep the leaves out of the soil. This is chicken grit. I went to the store and they told me I could buy a 55-pound bag of it, or I could go to the pet store and get budgie gravel instead. So I've got some budgie gravel. And it's just going to mix around the top of the soil. Some people use sand for this, gravel, almost anything decorative. We're just trying to change that soil color a little, make it look a little more natural for the alpine look we're working on. You can water this very, very thoroughly, because remember, it's going to drain really well. We've got that mix of peat moss with sand, rock in the bottom, and Orpora hypertufa. So lots of water added in. Over time, as you water, you'll end up eventually getting it so that all of your gravel stays on top. All right, that should just about do it for our alpine garden trough. Special thing about this, you can even leave it outside over winter in Calgary. Thanks very much for joining me today. I'm Grant Smith in Calgary. Bye-bye now.
This is where you started.
And Kevin Bry.
It's beautiful.
As they venture into Canadian gardens, think of it as a reminder of what spring will bring. Canadian Gardening, next on HGTV Canada.
This program is brought to you by Wilson. Works wonders.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. If you need more information, write to us at Canadian Gardening Television, care of Life Network, P.O. Box 339, Don Mills, Ontario, M3C 2S7. Or email us at ajeprod@interlog.com.
Looking for ideas?
Hey, Kev,
Well, there goes the disguise. How's it going, Liz?
who are you hiding from?
Oh, it's like the world. This garden has become a drop-in center.
Must be that boyish charm.
I think you're right. But no more, I tell you, because today is the day that Lorraine Menon teaches me how to create a secret garden, one where they'll never find me.
Oh, it sounds idyllic.
Oh, it is.
I'm off to Kitchener to visit Alain Charret. Now, if you want to get lost, this is the garden for you. It's a labyrinth of rooms.
Oh, dare to dream, Liz. Dare to dream.
You hear a lot about a garden that's made up of rooms, sometimes to the point of ad nauseum. I hear it from designers and gardeners everywhere, and sometimes I enter the garden and I can't see the rooms, but in this one you can. They're beautiful, Alan. And I'm here with Alain Charret of Kitchener, and he lives in a gorgeous old house, a century-old home that I understand was owned by the same family for the whole century.
Yes, I think so.
But I bet the garden wasn't here then.
There had been a garden for many years, but actually in the last 5 or 6 years before I bought, they had let it go, and so it was just really a field of goldenrod.
Alain believes a garden's plan is perhaps more important than the plants. He was a real beginner several years ago when he set out to create this first room at the back of the house, a formal lawn with classic borders. Much of his time during this phase was spent experimenting with plants and styles. Did you have the rooms in mind when you began? They're so clearly defined, it looks like you must have.
I thought the area should be divided up because it was a bit too big, and so I decided to divide it into 3 sections. Having an area divided like it makes it look much larger than it is. When you can see the whole thing at one glance, it looks smaller than when you have to go from one area to the next.
So you built all these structures, all the lattices and everything.
Yes.
I really like the size of the lattice. It's wide enough that you can see through it, and it gives you a sense of what's beyond. Can we go and take a look?
Yes, certainly.
Now, this first room here really is a formal area, isn't it? And it's almost like a living room.
Yes. I suppose you could compare the grass to a carpet in the middle of it.
Right. In fact, you know, it reveals your design, which has very formal structure, but very loosely planted beds with things kind of spilling over the edge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the planting makes it more informal.
Yeah. And everything's so tight that you can't see a weed in here either.
Oh, I'm sure they're there, but perhaps they're more difficult to spot.
Right.
This is Japanese chervil, which is an interesting purple. I read about it on the internet.
And then they sent you one by email?
Yes,
right?
they did. Actually, they faxed it.
Oh.
Well, a friend of mine gave me the seed, and I read
Right.
about it on the net.
I like the combination of it and the lamb's ears.
Yes, the contrast is very nice between the lamb's ears that's fuzzy and gray and the purple.
Right. And then you've got this purple plant here. What is this?
Cresswort, it's called. It's very attractive.
And back here, you've got a wonderful shrubbery collection that really acts as a screen. You've got some lilac, some honeysuckle, some purple smoke tree.
Yes, it creates privacy for the
Sure does.
garden.
The middle garden consists of 2 rooms, an herb garden and a 12 by 12 foot pond and bog garden.
And this is the middle section of the garden, Alain. It's got the 4 square herb garden and the part that you divided off to be the pond.
Yes, that's it.
Now, do you grow your herbs for culinary purposes?
Some of them, but others it's for the association with traditional medicine like this Digitalis lutea, which is the plant they use for heart medication. And this here is customary, which is also known as the Bible plant. It has a beautiful smell, and when you dry it, the print plate, it keeps its smell, and so people used to put them in their Bible, and if the sermon got too boring, they would smell it to
brighten your spirit.
To brighten your spirit.
And this is your pond.
Yes, it is.
Now, it's a still pond, but it's really quite clear.
Yes, well, there are lots of oxygenating plants, and that keeps it from getting cloudy.
They're the ones that grow under the water.
They're the ones under the water. And then you have the marginal plants are mostly native plants, like this canna lily here, that's with the little white flowers.
Right.
And this is the arrowhead. The arrowhead has a very nice white flower, but it blooms later on in July. And this is the pitcher plant. It's the floral emblem of Newfoundland. And this is the bloom. And you have the pitcher here.
Right.
And flies fall. There's water in the pitcher, and flies fall in it.
Right.
They get eaten.
And
they're little,
poor
things. Yes, they're little hairs growing, slanting down so that they cannot climb out.
And then you've got a bog garden around here. And how does that work?
Well, I find that initially it was quite attractive, well, quite neat. Now it's a very different kind of beauty because it's very wild and lush and overflowing with plants. But what happens is the ground is, the liner that's under the pond is under the bog as well. And so it keeps it very damp all the time. And so all these plants tend to spread, and all the thugs now have taken over, and all the tiny, delicate plants have disappeared over the years.
What is the big one? That is an attractive one. It looks like rhubarb.
It's called Darmia, actually. I don't know if it has a common name. And it would grow in a, it doesn't have to be in a bog, but it likes it rather wet and damp.
Right, so it's very happy there.
Yes, I think
And then you've got iris.
Yes, there
And,
are irises, and there's some
grasses.
different kind of ferns. And there is this plant here, which is called boneset. It's a native plant.
Oh.
It's related to jopai weed, I think.
Oh, is it?
And so it has, it's fused.
Right.
And
Like one joined leaf.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it used to be thought to cure broken bones because it was fused like this.
I
So
see.
it's called boneset.
It's funny how native plants get their, or herbal plants get their names, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And this is a very old pear tree. It was grafted in 1912.
How do you know that, Ellen?
Well, actually, I was reading the diary of someone who lived in Kitchener in 1912, and he mentions that he came here to graft a pear tree, and so it's so old that it's no doubt the tree grafted in 1912.
So this is one of the ghosts of the garden.
Yes, one of them.
Wood chip pathways divide the 5 beds of the last garden, which includes a vegetable and cutting garden, nursery bed, and a large compost area.
What do you grow,
Well,
Ellen?
mostly lettuces, but there's some squash, as you
Right.
can see.
What is
And this is a little greenhouse made with 2 old printer covers.
this? I
And I've
see.
put some eggplants in it because they require a lot of heat,
Right.
and so they like it very hot like this.
That's good
and-
recycling.
And I have some of these beds I use for starting perennials from seed. And here you have beans with, last year were glads. There were glads growing, and they came up again this year, so I didn't remove them. They're just mixed up with the beans.
They wintered over.
They wintered over. And there are tomatoes here and pepper
Oh,
there.
what is this? This is gorgeous.
Yes, it's a rose called Fairfield Blaze.
So scarlet, isn't
Yes.
it?
And there's a clematis growing through it.
Well, that's beautiful. Now, how old is this planting?
It's about 4 or 5 year old, I would think.
You know, Ellen, this is just spectacular. In fact, your whole garden is spectacular. You really are a master gardener.
Well, thank you.
Coming up, designing your own secret garden.
Let's face it, from time to time we all just need to drop out of sight, to chill out, to regroup. Sometimes escaping into the garden, well, that's just not good enough. It's like we need a hiding spot or a secret garden. Well, we're here at Pathway to Perennials with Lorraine Menon. Actually, I'm at Pathway to Perennials looking for Lorraine Menon. She, I think she's in her secret garden. I think I know where it is. It's, found her. Hey, Lorraine! We're ruining your solitude here. I hope you don't mind.
Hello, hello.
You're looking pretty comfortable here in your secret garden. Is this it?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it looks amazing. Took me a while to find it, though.
Good. That's the whole
part
thing.
of the whole thing of a
Yeah,
secret
yeah.
garden. Is a secret garden something that anybody can do?
Yes. All you need is a little tiny space, just big enough for a seat or a chair and a place to put your feet.
And you got it.
That's right.
Okay, so where do you begin in designing a secret garden?
Well, I'd say your first step is to decide when it is you're going to have time to use the garden.
Okay.
And that will kind of dictate whether you want sun or shade or morning or evening. And then you start looking for space.
Okay, and here you've chosen a site quite far away from the house.
Yes?
And you're using both plant material and the back of the shed.
Yeah. Now see, on the side of the shed where you pass, that's my potting area. So I do a lot of planting there. And just past the comfrey here is my compost pile. So I'm here all the time anyway. So what we did to utilize the back of the shed, so we already had one wall built, was just reclaim this land and make a little secret spot. When I get a chance to rest, then here I am.
That's great. What time of day would you normally use this place?
Usually late in the day.
Yeah, it's a bit bright here right now. It's a bit hot.
It's a little warmed now, yeah.
You've also filled your secret garden with, I'm thinking, things that probably mean a lot to you. Tell us about some of the things you've put in here.
Well, first of all, I wanted to utilize some things that were already here. Behind my chair, I have serviceberry bushes. And covering the chair, which eventually should give me like a roof on top, is all the wild grapevines, so we get late fall and early winter feeding for the birds. And then in this plant, just against the shed, is bee balm, or otherwise known as monarda, and that attracts the hummingbirds.
That's great. And you've also filled your secret garden with the lovely sound of trickling water.
That's right. Now, I've done that for a couple of reasons. One is because I really enjoy the sound of trickling water. It is very soothing. But the other is it does attract birds. When they hear that trickling water, they want to be nosy and find out what's going on there.
And this isn't a difficult thing that you've done here. You've
No, this is really simple. This is just my old watering can. That's one of my favorites. I hardly ever used it because I just like the looks of it.
Yeah.
And this is Grandma's old wash tub.
And do you have a pump in there that just pushes the water?
The tiniest little fish pump that just recirculates the water, and that's it.
Tell us about some of the other the hard structures that you have in here.
Well, one that I brought out, my old favorite, the pot-bellied wood stove. That used to be my coffee table in the old house.
Really?
Yeah. And then my favorite is the willow chair.
The willow, yeah, it's
That
great.
was a gift from one of my friends to celebrate our new garden when we moved here, so I really treasure that.
The chair is a real important part of the secret garden.
It certainly is. You know, everybody works hard and in almost every kind of a job, even if you're home parenting, you need a place for solitude, just a place for time out.
Well, I tell you, that
So
chair,
that's
that would
mine.
do it for me.
And I can kind of hear it calling my name, so I'm going to head back over to my spot.
Okay. We'll get out of your secret garden because we've bothered you enough. Thanks a lot,
I don't
Lorraine.
think you're going that fast. There's a tray of lilies there. If you don't mind planting them on your way out, that would be terrific.
Oh, these right here, yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I can do that for you. No problem. We'll have a trowel. Truth be known, the right tool for the right job will make your work that much easier. But you need to spend a fortune on these things. Well, not necessarily. So says our resident tool expert, Stephen Westcott Grattan. Hey, Stephen.
How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well, thank you. We have some general garden tools here, really a necessity for most gardeners.
Absolutely. At any stage in your gardening life, you're likely to need one of these three items. And I guess we should start with the most basic one of all.
The spade.
The spade.
Okay.
We have two different kinds here, and there's quite a price difference involved with them as well. The one that you have is $40, this is $15. But look at the tread here. You've got really substantial tread. It's going to save your footwear. It's going to make it easier to plunge it into the soil, whereas mine is a bit of an excuse for a tread. But it also depends what you want to use it for. Are you going to be using it every week? Or are you going to use it once or twice a season?
Good questions.
If it's once or twice a season, you might want to go with this because of the price difference. It's also a lot lighter to use.
Okay.
And I guess the next point we should make is that you've got a beautiful lacquered spade here. And as you can see, mine hasn't been lacquered at all. And what's happening already?
Oh, yeah, it's starting to rust there.
Exactly.
That's only going to continue to work itself up the length of the spade. You need a sharp end on a spade.
That's the most important point of all. That's what's going to make your job a whole lot easier in the long run. Now, both of these are steel. Both of them can be easily sharpened either at home or if you take them to a hardware store.
Okay.
As opposed to a slightly different kind, which is this. This spade looks great.
Yeah.
And it has all those other features. It's not going to rust and soil won't cling to it. But because it's stainless steel, it's almost impossible to keep sharp. So it's great for year one, but not great after that.
No tread either.
Exactly.
Not a very good spade. Okay, let's move on to the hose there.
Okay. Here's a traditional style.
Yeah, pretty classic. I remember that from, well, God, when I was a kid.
Yeah, and here's the one I prefer. And again, we should probably mention the price difference. This is about $15, this is $40. But here's one case where I'd really recommend going with the more expensive item.
Okay.
Feel the difference in the edges on these.
Oh, yeah. Not going to cut yourself on that.
No,
I'm
it's
assuming
completely blunt.
A lot sharper.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that's like a Gillette.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they're used for annual weeds. You just want to scuffle the surface. The weeds come through this hole, so it works a whole lot more efficiently. And again, it's easier on your back.
Is that a new design or just a good design?
No, this is an old design. It's been around since Victorian times.
Oh,
but,
really?
It's lasted for a good reason.
Last but not least, which one do you want to start with? Let's start with these two.
Okay. Cultivators.
Yeah.
What do we want to say? This one has 4 prongs, this one has 3, but probably the most important thing is how they're positioned. You have to remember how it's going to hit the soil.
This one's sticking out a bit.
Yeah, it's sticking out way too much in my opinion. When you're actually working in the soil, this one's going to be far more invasive and could actually damage some roots of plants. Whereas these are all at the same level, and it's much easier to control it that way.
Price difference?
Price difference? Nothing. $2 between both of them. I think this is 24, this is 22.
Okay.
But this again will last forever. You can see I have my old standby here.
Grandpa's tool.
Well, exactly. It's older than I am,
Really?
in fact. And I still use it every summer. It's still beautifully sharp, and it's the same design as this. So
And the difference between the wood versus the steel shaft?
well, wood is better because it's actually stronger, believe it or not, and
Okay.
it's more pliable. metal tends to bend a bit and it's difficult to replace. You can't fix, you know, the actual business end of this into another metal piece as easily as you can with a piece of wood because it gives a bit. So they're easier to repair and they'll last you a lifetime.
Some great options and gardening tools for you from Stephen Westcott Grattan. Choose your weapons and come out fighting.
Coming up, a stroll through Stephen Leacock's museum garden.
I'd like to welcome you to the Gardener Gardens. My name is Marilyn Nielsen. I'm also known as the Happy Gardener. Working here, I don't feel like I'm working for somebody. I'm working for myself because I love gardening and it feels like it's my garden. It is my garden. I do all the work. Stephen Leacock was a famous Canadian humorous writer, which he is very well known for, especially the sketches of Sun City, which was Aurelia but didn't mention Aurelia. This was his summer home, and he liked to do a lot of entertaining. There was an original cottage here by the lake, and then he wanted a bigger home after, and this is the one that he's built. This is my 9th year gardening, and the garden was already here. Right now it's at its prime. With the early heat that we've had and then the late rain, everything's blooming at once. So I'm very lucky to be able to have color at this point. Right now you can see all our different phlox coming out, the Shasta daisies, the delphiniums. This one is a double coreopsis. And it's very easy to grow. This is in clay and it can stand slightly dry. It keeps blooming most of the summer as long as you keep picking off the dead blooms and make sure you get the seed pod with it. The phlox is another trick. Once it's finished blooming, cut it back here, and then back in here you'll get more flowers coming. They'll be smaller, but you'll get more color to keep it going through the season. This is a very interesting plant. This is Heuchera coral bells. I have misplaced the tag to get the proper name, but what's unique is I like the color of the foliage instead of just all greens. And then the flower spike is pretty too. Even when it's finished flowering, it's got a pretty spike. What's next to it too is scabiosa, and if you keep taking the dead heads off again of it, it keeps flowering, and it's nice as a cut flower because it really lasts. I do have help with the volunteers in the community here. A lot of the retired people have had gardens, and we do encourage to have volunteers for the home because there is so much work and so little staff, and it kind of involves the community with the home as well. In the spring we sell perennials, but somebody asked me they'd like something. I say, okay, what have you got? I'd like to exchange with you. And it keeps it going that way too. I can say, well, this came from so-and-so, and it's kind of unique that people enjoy saying, I got this plant out of the Leacock Garden. And what I enjoy too, we get a lot of bus tours and a lot of seniors who have had gardens or still garden. And they'll either ask me, you know, what a plant is, or say, oh, I have that in my garden. It's nice to talk with them too about the garden and gardening. This is an interesting plant that I have fun with the school children when they have their tour here. I take one of the leaves off and pass it around and let them feel it and ask them what it might remind them of. And then I tell them the name of the plant, and I say it's a lamb's ear. And they say, oh yeah, they get really excited because of the soft feel of the leaf. Where I lived, I wasn't able to have a garden. And now I've moved where I can, but then now I don't have time. I'm too busy with other people's gardens.
We'll be right back with more Canadian gardening.
This is HGTV Canada.
Kev? Hey, Kev?
Hello, Liz.
Where are you?
Oh, I'm in a safe place. I call it my secret garden.
Do you mind telling me where it is?
You see, Liz, that's why it's called that. You see, it's a secret.
Oh, that's too bad. I guess I'll have to find someone else to take to the Stones and Moss workshop.
Yeah, I'll get my car.
Oh, you'll love it. Come on. I know it'll be a great
Get ready to
better than snuggling under a warm quilt. Well, today we're going to visit the garden of a master quilter who's also a master gardener. She uses some of the same spectacular colors in her quilts and in her garden. Here we'll find out how to break the rules by growing sun-loving plants in the shade, and how to harmonize the colors of the plants in a hanging basket. Later we'll find out how you can grow delicious citrus year-round, and we'll help you solve some tough gardening problems, like how to prevent transplant shock. That and more today on Grow It, a gardener's guide. A walk through Freddie Moran's home and garden is an intoxicating trip through a mindscape of pure color.
I always say I never met a color I didn't like. And as long as I keep it to pure color without any grays, I feel I can use as much color as possible. I feel that 10 colors doesn't work, but 100 does. And that's the same in my garden.
After raising 5 children in San Francisco's Bay Area with her husband Neil, Freddie decided to focus her talent on quilt making, which inspired her passion for gardening.
It's amazing how many quilters are gardeners. There's a natural affinity, people that like color or people who like the home. And I think that there's part of me that likes the practical side of planting a garden, picking a flower, making a quilt, using it on a bed.
While they may be practical, her quilts are anything but conservative, especially when it comes to color. What is it about the intense saturated colors that appeals to you? Is it just more lively? Is that?
It's a sense of joy. I think it's just, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel happy. And my quilts brought me so much pleasure that I continued it in my house and in my garden.
Do you have any no-nos about putting colors together?
None. There are no rules. What I try and do is break every rule. I absolutely push it to the limit. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. And I've been known to pull out a lot of plants, and I've been known to remake a lot of quilts.
Part of breaking the rules for Freddie involves growing some sun-loving plants like roses in the shade. Her secret? Great soil.
90% of a garden is good soil. And I would urge anyone that is starting a garden, if you can't afford it, don't plant anything. Just put in soil. Plant soil.
I see some plants that I recognize are sun-loving plants. Here they are growing in the shade and growing beautifully. Look at, is this Rudbeckia?
Yes, it is. And this is, I think, the perfect example of good soil. And I think when you have good soil, you can grow anything. I particularly like this rose over here.
That's an unusual color.
And this rose is called mint julep. And it was, it's an unusual rose, and I've never seen another green rose. It has a very reminiscent color of hydrangeas. And it does very well where it is. The foliage is great. Again, I think it's because of the breezes we have up here.
And look, here's chrysanthemum parthenium. That's the feverfew.
I love the name. In some other countries, they use this in baths for children. They crush it up and they put it in the bath, and they say it calms the children. Now, the reason that this was planted here was I knew that I wanted a lot of this chartreuse in this area of the garden because this area tends to be very dark. And so I wanted the lightness of that against the medium color of that and against the dark. The same thing I do with a quilt.
You know, when I squint at a garden like this, if you squint at it, you can see right away that this is light, this is medium, and then there's dark red back in there. So it is medium, lights, and darks woven through, just like a quilt. And squinting really helps. Whether you're looking at a painting or at a garden, helps you resolve areas of light and dark. Speaking of backgrounds, I noticed that you very carefully plant large, tall background plants to serve as a backdrop. Can you explain what what the theory of that is?
Well, the theory of that is to push, to stop your eye and push all the color forward. So that gives a natural resting point for your eye to stop. In other words, rather than just fade off into nothingness, fade off into lightness, you have a natural barrier, albeit variegated. It's still darker than the foreground.
And it's a backdrop for
Right.
these.
So there is the frame. It's much like a painting. You have framed your painting. You've colored with your flowers, and that makes the frame for the garden.
And you weave them together.
Right.
Very artfully, I think.
That is, I think, what makes an outstanding garden. I think any time that you successfully see a planting that weaves those colors together, and it kind of makes your soul sing. You just think, oh, this is so exciting. And I think that's, again, there's that weaving of color.
You are in love with color, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Even indoors, Freddie creates tapestries of vibrant color from floor to ceiling. One of the design elements that Freddie uses so well in her garden is the idea of verticality in the background. She gets the garden up off the horizontal and starts making it move up. Look, she uses eulalia grass, Miscanthus sinensis, and this is a variegated kind of eulalia grass that looks really good and makes a big vertical fountain of leaves in the background that contrasts nicely with the foliage up front. Over here, she uses vertical accents of spider plant, cleome, and then behind that on the walls there's clematis and roses growing up the walls. Another thing that she does to accent the vertical elements in this garden is use hanging baskets.
The basket is lined with sphagnum moss, and the spores, the fern spores, have just naturally grown from just watering this. This is never planted. This is just what came naturally.
These ferns that are growing out of the bottom of this hanging basket just showed up?
Just showed up. That was a bonus. They were never planted. This is planted now with the begonias and the impatiens.
Well, let's see. We'll give this thing a little spin. And we have some New Guinea impatiens.
Right.
And here's some begonias. And we have the ivy that's growing up. That's very nice. And oh, this is pretty over here. Yellow and then apricot and peachy colors all together.
This then in January, this will be replanted. And this will have a lot of polydosum. It will have some poppies in the center. It will have some violas, and it will have some parsley. And that's another thing I like to do. I love the combination of parsley and the blue violas. They just seem to sing together.
The Morans removed 12 trees and limbed up their oaks, which enhanced their view and added indirect light. I noticed that the oak tree here is limbed up so that you can walk underneath it. And I think that's an important point for people to realize, that woody plants really need to be limbed up, a lot of them, so you not only can walk under them, but you can plant under them. And look at this. This is a camellia done as an espalier. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Well, when we moved here, this camellia was right in the front of this bed, and it was a big, tall, dumpy, dumb plant. And so we decided we would put the trellis up, put it against the wall, espalier it, and this year we will have, last year it only had a few blossoms. It was stressed. But if you're thinking of doing it, don't be afraid, because this year is going to be just filled with blossoms. They're shocking pink with bright yellow centers, and it will be spectacular.
Most of Freddie's bold experiments have paid off handsomely. Incredibly, it's taken her less than a year to transform a relatively small barren lot and brown shingle house into a vibrant sanctuary.
I feel peace. I feel joy. I love the view. I love the absolute privacy that this garden affords. I love laying in a hammock out here and reading a book, falling asleep, hearing the birds. I love this garden.
Coming up next, questions and answers, including advice on how to build a mini greenhouse.
Here, have you been thinking about having your own water garden paradise right at home? Now it's easy to create a beautiful water garden with do-it-yourself kits from Tetra Pond. Tetra Pond kits use friendly rubber liners which can be free-formed almost anywhere you like. They are great in-ground, above ground, and even indoors, and Tetra Ponds are guaranteed to last. Visit Pekov's and let our friendly team of experts help you make the right choice. Pekov's, just east of Toronto in Ajax.
And now for our question and answer segment. Here's a simple project you can tackle right now to start the new year and get a jump on gardening even in the cold months. Try building a cold frame. A cold frame is a simple device to protect tender plants from frost and to start seedlings in the cold weather. Now, how do you build a cold frame?
Here's garden expert Dan Lehrer in Berkeley, California.
I'm just putting the finishing touches on a cold frame I built this morning. I did this because I wanted to get a jump on the growing season. Basically, this is just a box with a window on the top. The trick is to get the window at a 30-degree angle so you catch that low-lying winter sun. I wasn't too sure of the math to get the angle at 30 degrees, so I winged it, and I think it came out okay. I got some of the lumber at a local lumber yard, and the rest of the wood I found laying around the house, which is proof positive why you should never throw anything away. I built this out of rot-resistant wood, redwood, but you can use cedar too. And it doesn't really matter where you put the cold frame. It can be on the ground or it can be on dirt. These bachelor's buttons wouldn't make it through a heavy frost, but in the cold frame they're going to be nice and toasty. Although if I was in a real harsh climate, I might have to do even more. Might have to put a layer of straw around the edges or even cover the whole thing in a blanket during a storm or some real cold snap. Oh, and one other thing. Even in a harsh climate, you might have a warm winter's day, so you need to have some way to keep this propped open so your plants don't boil. This window happens to have a little hook already attached to it, so I can just keep this propped open with no extra work at all. So there you have it. This cold frame only took me a couple hours, didn't cost very much money, and now I've got a great way to get a big jump on next year's growing season.
What's the right way to plant an annual? Here's Brookside Garden's master gardener, Michael Zeich.
I'm going to show you how to plant the annuals the right way. First of all, you have to dig and loosen up your soil real good, and I recommend you put some compost on. This is rotted leaves from my compost pile, leaves and grasses. Put some on the soil, dig it in a little bit, because the compost gives a lot of good things to the soil, microbes. Then when it's all loose, you dig yourself a hole, a good hole. You make a cone of soil in the middle of the hole, like a little pyramid or lump. Take your annual out of your pot, and you notice the root ball on annuals grown in pots, all these little white things are roots, and they've grown in circles. They will not grow out of those circles if you don't break that out. So what you need to do is take your finger or a stick and loosen the roots on the outside edge a little bit. See how I'm doing? See, I'm pulling them apart here, loosening them up. And finally, you break the root ball itself. See how I'm spreading that apart? This forces the roots to grow into the surrounding soil. If this is not done, the plant rarely will grow out of its original rooting medium because it's a different kind of a soil and roots don't like to leave one kind of soil for another. Then you plant the thing by laying this over top of that cone in the soil. See that? And then you backfill. So it's a little deeper than it was originally. Just right, and you don't tamp it. Tamping is not good for it. It presses the air out, and it needs a lot of loose soil and good air. You water it in last of all, then the water will settle the soil particles around it without packing them around the roots. If you separate the root ball into two flaps, plant it on a cone, backfill without tamping, and water it in well, you'll grow the best possible annuals.
What can I plant to add beauty to my garden in winter? Here's Sunset Magazine's Steve Lorton with an answer.
You know, there are a lot of good things that you can plant for winter interest in your garden. Today I want to welcome you to the wonderful world of Cotoneasters. I'm here in my garden with Cotoneaster Franchettii. This was a volunteer. It arches up and fountains down and makes a beautiful background for planting here. You can also get Cotoneasters that are ground covers, Cotoneaster horizontalis, and Cotoneaster damarii is a low-growing plant that spills over a retaining wall and drips down. They have these wonderful clusters of bright red berries, sometimes orange, that appear in late summer and hang on well through the winter. The birds love them. In the coldest climate, their leaves are deciduous, and in mild climates, they're evergreen. It's a great plant. It's drought tolerant. For the most part, it's disease and pest resistant. It's easy to grow. So ask your nurseryman to introduce you to Cotoneasters. It's one of the best and easiest plants you'll find for winter interest.
Coming up next, how you can enjoy a taste of sunshine in your garden. Citrus, even in the dead of winter.
In the cold winter months, most people never get closer to a citrus plant than their local grocery store when they buy oranges. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you could go out on your porch and pick your own fresh lemons, oranges, tangerines, and grapefruit? Here's a lemon. Take this indoors and make a fresh lemonade out of it. Well, you can do it, and all you need is the plant, a container, and some fertilizer, and a warm, sunny spot. And you can grow citrus all through the cold months. Here at Four Winds Growers in Fremont, California, Don Dillon's family has been growing dwarf citrus since 1949. Once considered failed experiments by university horticultural labs, the tiny trees have fueled a giant nationwide business. Each dwarf tree is made from grafting a normal fruiting branch, called a scion, onto a dwarf tree-rooting stock.
This is quite miraculous. This happens in no time at all. And meanwhile, up here, this graft has come together, and these two pieces are now one, a wedding, if you will, of the two pieces. And one of the important things about growing one of these trees in your home is that you should keep in mind that you're dealing with two separate trees. And the one on the bottom is capable of producing fruit. Unfortunately, the fruit is quite useless. And that wood then coming from the bottom is called a sucker. And they come out from the base of each leaf and should be removed. But there you can see how those two pieces, the scion and the understock, have now become just one single tree. So what you want is to encourage anything growing from above the graft.
Don says growing dwarf citrus is simple. All you need is a pot, 12 inches in diameter, and some quick-draining potting soil.
Plant the tree, don't over-water it, just keep it moist. Don't mother it to death. Feed it lightly with a well-balanced high nitrogen content fertilizer about once a month. They can be grown indoors or outdoors, in a container, in the ground if your weather is such that you can be above freezing most of the year. Why, they'll stand temperatures down to 28. You can grow them out in your patio, out in the yard in a container, and when you think fall is coming and temperatures are going to drop, hey, better think about getting it indoors.
I think one of the best things about growing citrus at home is the smell of the blossoms. I see you have one here in full bloom.
Yeah, unfortunately, most varieties bloom just in the spring, set their fruit, and have fruit then that mature later in the year from Christmas to the following year. The exception to this would be lemons. Lemons and limes tend to bloom almost year-round.
Of the 40 varieties grown at Four Winds, Don's favorite is the Mineola Tangelo.
What's great about it is that it's a tangerine grapefruit hybrid. It's very decorative, and when you get ready to eat the thing, it's very tasty. You can see how easily it peels. And I don't know, well, this is always a gamble.
All right, let's see.
But this is live, man. How about it?
Oh, it's soft and sweet and delicious.
You know what? Some of the best stuff's in the peel.
Well, let me take a taste. The bioflavonoids, that's what's in the
That's the
peel.
bioflavonoid.
Right.
You know? We want to learn to be 100 years old?
Eat them bioflavonoids.
Right.
So growing your own citrus, your own taste of sunshine is really fun, and it's so simple. All you need is the plant, a good generous-sized pot, some well-drained potting soil. Don't let them freeze. Sit back and enjoy the fruit.
Coming up, guess what we found inside those dead-looking winter plants?
In the winter, even in California, things really look dead. The annuals are all blasted, but in the seeds, the germ is still alive. The perennials are all frosted back to the ground, but under the ground, the roots are still alive. The trees look dead, but they're only sleeping. It's reassuring to know that soon the sap will rise secretly in those trees, and under the leaf litter of last summer's gardens, the seeds will be sprouting. What appears to be dead will soon revive. There's hope for the old garden yet. And if there's hope for the simple plants, maybe there's hope for us too. I'm Jeff Cox. Thanks for watching.
Take a break. This is HGTV, Home and Garden Television Canada.
Welcome to Pools, Patios, and Decks. I'm Phil Curran. If you've ever thought of making some changes to your yard, like updating landscaping, adding a water feature, or maybe even a pool, I've got some great ideas for you on the way. Or if you just want to see some beautiful backyards, stay tuned, because that's coming up on Pools, Patios, and Decks.
Today on the show, we'll take you through this backyard that has it all: a pool, patio, deck, cabana, and bar. We'll also visit this home to find out when's the best time to have a pool installed. And if you can have a pool, what shape do you want it in? Then we'll return when the pool's complete to see how it all turned out. Next, we'll head out to this 8-year-old home. The homeowners are redoing the backyard so it's more family-friendly. The completed yard is now perfect for all 7 members of the family. And finally, we'll stop by this house that's lacking in curb appeal. So a new patio, walkway, and steps are being installed to change all that. The completed entrance turns the house into a grand, welcoming home. That's all today on Pools, Patios, and Decks. Our first stop on the show takes us to this large backyard that has it all: a cedar deck to lounge in, a patio to relax on, a pool to swim in, and a bar so you can order your favorite drink. Let's see what else it has.
Well, this is a really, really nice backyard, Trudy.
It is a lovely setting.
Yeah.
And the setting, of course, hasn't changed. The setting was here, lovely large trees, mature spruce trees in the background. But the whole yard was tired. There were things here that really had to be removed, and we wanted to tie the yard together.
Okay, so it looked okay before, but you guys came in. What was the before? What did we have here before?
We had the pool.
Okay.
We had the bar cabana that's behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a rickety old deck, and there was a blob of concrete that was just off to the side. So what we wanted to do was make it all very cohesive.
Right.
And at that time it wasn't.
Okay.
So interlock, we married the old interlock with the new. We were sort of standing on some old interlock here.
Wow.
And we married it with the new by putting some of the old into the new and bringing some of the new into the old.
Right.
So that's a new area over there, and this area in here is also new, sort of a circular pattern, a nice area just to sit, relax with a book, a fire in the evening.
I like the fire pit. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's a nice idea.
Sitting area here, and then, yes, this other sitting area over here. And you know what? You can't even really notice. It's very hard to notice the difference between the old interlock and this new stuff, the way you've blended the two together.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trick to do that. You can't just bring the new up to the old, and you definitely get a line that way.
Right. So we've got an area here to sit and watch the kids in the pool or whatever.
Yes, that's right.
Unfortunately, we're not the kids in the pool today.
That way it would be nice to be the kid in the pool.
Yeah.
And now we're stepping up onto the new deck.
the old deck was old, and as I say, it was tired. The new deck is nice and low. You can see the yard very well from this deck. There are a couple, a few accesses over to the bar area, and one to the pool area, and one off to the side yard, which is sort of a play area. And it's all cedar construction.
Nice that it's been kept so low so that you can really see out into the yard. You know, obviously the homeowners here have gone to a lot of trouble and expense to make sure that the yard looks very nice. Be ashamed to have rails sticking up all over the place. You have to be looking up over the rail to see all of the yard, right?
Yeah, and the homeowners have a great sense of taste for flowers, and there are perennials in the yard, lots of perennials, lots of annuals. We enhance the garden beds by edging them a really nice defined edge, using some larger massive rocks, again, just to give it some structure, a couple of screens in the back.
I like this area right here by the diving board, almost a little separate garden to itself, right, with the screens, very nice touch.
Yeah, that works out well. And off in the corner we have a new shed with some flagstone stepping stones that go around to the back to the compost area, so that's a great utilitarian area. Wonderful perennials in there as well.
Well, the whole thing looks really nice. You mentioned the homeowner has actually had quite a hand in the plantings.
That's right. I mean, we've certainly done the bare bones plantings, but the annuals and some of the perennials are her touch.
So it was okay before, but it's much nicer now.
Better.
Now, let's stop by this house that's getting a new porch, walkway, and fence to give it more curb appeal.
Now, it looks like we've got some pretty major changes going on at the front of the house here, Jurgen.
Yes, we do. Here we have an older home, and with this older home, they had some very nice materials, like stone and flagstone and nice plantings, etc., but there was a few problems with it.
Okay.
Some of them specifically are, here you have this hill with a nice tall house behind us, but we have a very narrow walk that was approaching it, and a lot of stairs. With these stairs, actually, they were a mix of precast concrete and real flagstone. I found that mix wasn't very nice.
Wasn't very complimentary for the entrance for the house, right?
I didn't think so.
Yeah, okay.
Also, what we had is a problem. The old wall used to be square, and what I wanted to do is round off the walls, widen out the front stairs where it meets the street, so it's more inviting to come up.
Okay.
At the same time, once we got to break up the long monotony of these stairs, we wanted to create a bit of a patio right here at this level with a nice focal point, which you're going to see afterwards.
Okay, so that obviously involved ripping up the old stone, taking out some stuff, and putting down some new stuff, right?
Yeah, and so new risers. The risers is the vertical part of the step.
Okay.
We don't want to see the brick. We're going to put a new stone in front of that.
Okay.
When we come up closer to the front of the house, there's these large sort of pilasters, big block type things, which actually don't really suit the house. I found it very constraining. So we want to get rid of those, and we're going to build some nice new stone walls. We're going to mimic the front porch, a nice large curving porch. We're going to do nice curved stone walls, nice curved steps at the bottom. So we're going to bring a lot of rounds into this design.
Now I can see you're also putting in a new fence too, right, Jerry?
Yes, this particular property is up high. They have small children, and there was a safety factor here. What could we do to stop the kids from falling off the walls, the stone walls that we're rebuilding?
Good idea.
So we thought we'd do a fence. We're actually going to do a very low fence. We don't need it tall. It's actually just to create a little bit of architecture, a little bit of safety. We're going to tie in the architecture of the home to this area.
Beautiful. So it looks like what we're doing overall is improving the curb appeal of the house, right?
Yes, I think most people are very concerned about a good front entrance, or a good curb appeal, as you put it.
Okay.
When we return on pools, patios, and decks, we'll see the much improved home with tons of curb appeal. The curved steps really help to make the home more inviting. We'll also find out how a landscaper is going to make this yard more functional for the 7 family members who use it. And we'll find out when the best time to install a pool really is. That's all next when Pools, Patios, and Decks return. Back to Pools, Patios, and Decks. There are 7 people living in this home, so the homeowners wanted to do something to the backyard that will accommodate every member of the family.
How old was the deck here, Neil, that the guys are tearing down?
I'd say it's about 8 or 10 years old.
Okay, so it was time to go?
Absolutely.
All right, so some changes being made in the backyard, and why?
Well, what it is we did a master plan for the whole property here. So basically, we're going to be doing it in 3 phases. The first phase now is the immediate backyard, and then in about 3 or 4 months from now, we'll do the side yards, and then next year we'll do the front yard.
Okay.
As I said, we're concentrating on the backyard. Doing the design, it was fairly challenging because they have 5 children here, so we have to make the backyard accommodate all the children and the adults and everything.
parents. Okay, and it's a good-sized backyard, but it's not huge. But what size? What's for this area?
It's about 70 feet wide and it's about 40 feet deep, so it's a pretty good size.
Yeah.
And with the plan, we've got a variety of things that we're putting into it, and so it's going to be a very, very functional yard by the time we finish.
Okay, well, tell me about the new deck that's going to be going in once this is done.
It's going to be actually larger. It's going to be tiered on 2 different levels. It's going to be much more functional. And then we'll be stepping down onto a hard surface, a patio area. We're going to be building a pavilion over here so that they have a covered area. So again, you know, we're concerned about the sun with the children and that, so we're creating a covered area. We're going to have with 5 children, we need a large play area.
Very large play area.
We're going to have a real gym area there for the kids. We're going to create some perimeter planting for some additional privacy and obviously some color.
Well, it's going to be an interesting transition when everything is said and done, and be glad to come back and see you now.
Great, thank you.
We'll see the more family-friendly yard later, but now let's visit this home again to see how our expert made the front entrance more welcoming with the curved steps and patio area.
Now, one of the first things I noticed when I pulled up to the house here, Jürgen, now that your job is finished, and lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
The way that we've connected the front of the house with the new railing to the new fence down at the front of the property. Everything kind of sort of works its way down, doesn't it?
Yes, we had a really tall house here, as you know, on top of a hill, which makes it even worse sometimes.
Right.
And I wanted to sort of layer the house down, take advantage of the natural architectural appeal of this house. It was a bit of a marriage with the homeowner here, I can say that much.
Yeah.
I had to twist their arm and make them believe this is going to look beautiful, and it really did work out fantastic.
Well, you must have twisted their arm enough because yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. It's a sort of an open style. It doesn't block the view from the windows. Gracefully brings it down into this level in here.
Mm-hmm.
What we've also done is we re-emphasized these layers, also interpretations in stonework.
Yes, now that we've knocked out the wall that was at the front step, and this is all new, right?
This is a new wall. The old garden sort of just flopped down onto a few small rocks. I wanted to show a little bit of structure, show off these graceful curves of this grand porch, but in terms of stonework.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we did is we also interpreted that in terms of planting. This boxwood hedging, for example, also re-emphasizes these curves. But what I really like to do is sometimes show one thing against another thing. So, for example, we had rocks over here and free-form screens. Although they're curving, they're kind of a natural shape. Imagine doing notched curved lattice like that.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of work, and it works well with the fact that we've got, as you mentioned, the sort of natural curve there and more of the man-made curve here with the stone wall.
Yeah, you tend to appreciate these because you see it against that.
Right, and I love the stone here in the new patio area.
Yeah, isn't it fantastic?
Yeah.
Simple, just a little bird bath which the homeowner had.
Mm-hmm.
Just put a little boxwood hedge around it, a few flowers sprouting out, just kept it very simple. What I really like, though,
the new front steps.
The new front steps.
Yeah.
The old walls here used to be square. We wanted to make it feel welcoming, so we also curved those walls in, widened the stairs out so that it really says, come here, visit, you're more than welcome.
Please come, stop by. Well, yeah, it makes for a much more inviting and grander entrance to the front of this very large grand home.
When we come back, we'll see the deck, pavilion, patio, and swing that transformed the once useless backyard into this very functional one for every member of the family. We'll also stop by this home to get some answers to questions like when's the best time to install a pool, and can it be any shape? We'll find out next when pools, patios, and decks return. Pools, patios, and decks. When we last stopped by this home, the crew was tearing down the old deck to make room for the new one.
Well, for someone who is looking for a deck to be more children-friendly, family-friendly, Neil, they've definitely got this, because there's tons of room on this thing for a big family.
Yes, we wanted it to make sure that we had enough room for a family of 7, and we certainly do have it here. So we've got a little bit of an extension from the kitchen area here, which can certainly accommodate the barbecue in that. The table and chairs are going to be here. We did these 2 lattice screens, as you can see, and we have lights on them. What he wanted was to have these lights on a separate on and off switch so he can be out here reading at night.
Okay, very nice. And the color is also something a little different. Is this is a stain, I'm guessing, that we've got the green?
Yes, it's a stain on the floor. It's a transparent green stain, and here is a solid opaque stain.
Okay.
Because of the size of it, we thought that it'd be nice to do it in 2 colors, because if you did it in the 1 color, I think it'd just be too...
Might be a little bit, yeah, too much, because we do have a very large surface area here, and, well, between the lower area and the upper area. Nice about the railings is that you can still see through them pretty easily and see into the yard, right?
Yeah, and also we've got them at a height, so when you're sitting on a chair, you're looking above them, over them, rather than through them.
Just about drink height, too, I think.
Perfect. Just perfect.
Now, we've got a couple of walkouts, one at the other side, so that they still have access, easy access to the yard, right?
Yeah, because the yard is fairly wide, so that's why we wanted to do it like this. And then also because, again, I mean, the size of the family and a good-sized yard, we created another sitting area right here. We used the Bradstone. What's nice about the Bradstone is that it comes in different colors, different shapes and sizes. It sort of gives it a flagstone look. It's certainly a good compromise for the flagstone, and economically it's priced pretty good.
Well, these are actually concrete slabs, right?
Yes.
So they've been poured into molds, and they're textured, patterned, kind of, so that they, as you said, they look like flagstone with keeping the expense down.
Yes, yeah, and it works good. It's you know, it gives it that sort of patina of age as well. One of the other unique things that we came up with in this backyard, Phil, is this pavilion.
Very nice.
Now, certainly one of the purposes of the pavilion is to create a shaded area for the yard, which we didn't have. I mean, we're facing south, so we get a tremendous amount of sun here, and also this gives you some protection from the rain. You can see, we did it in the 2 tones to sort of match the deck that we've done. We've got a light hanging in here, again, on a separate switch, so that we could have this light on or off. As you can see, we stain the underside here again to sort of really lighten it up, create some light as much as we can.
It looks nice, too, because it gives you a sense of the whole structure being finished, as opposed to leaving the interior just kind of left and rough looking, right?
Correct. That's a very good point.
And cedar shingles, shakes, right?
Cedar shakes, yep, and again, we didn't put anything on those. We're just going to let those sort of weather on their own.
Okay, so an area there to sit and maybe cool off, get out of the sun, and then we've got another sitting area in the corner.
Yeah, what we did here was we obviously built the swing with the trellis overhead. We stained that to green. The reason for that, we just wanted to sort of get lost in the landscape. And we have some of the Bradstone down there. We have some ground covers planted in between it. And as you can see, some planting around it. So there's a lot of areas here to sort of to sit and certainly enjoy. We've created the perimeter planting all the way around as well. To eventually, that's going to hide the existing fence. And we've also done some perimeter planting around the deck and in front of the house.
Now let's head out to this home to see when's the best time to have a pool installed.
Well, there's a bit of a nip in the air today, John.
Yeah. Well, the leaves are changing, and you'd be probably wondering why we're out here doing a pool interview, right?
Because I have a funny feeling this pool isn't going to get much use this year.
No, it's cold, it's wet, and the leaves are changing. But it's a wonderful time of the season to put in a pool, actually, Phil.
Why is that?
Well, simply because, number one, it's less expensive for the homeowner.
Why?
It's because it's off-season.
Okay.
It's off-season, so it's not only less expensive, but it's going to be ready and available in the spring for the homeowner when he opens the pool. Everything's going to be done. What we have is the landscapers here now, landscape images here, doing a wonderful job. They've got a waterfall. They're doing the topsoil. The planting is going to be going on in the spring, so it'll be completely finished for the homeowner.
Now, why are they having a pool put in?
Well, they've got young kids.
Okay.
And it's a small backyard, so they have a park close by, so they don't require the backyard for the kids. And so they're putting in the pool, and you can see it's relatively tight, but Dave Dexter here has done a wonderful job. You can see he's actually designed the shape of the pool. It's a customized pool. It's actually a part kidney, part rectangle lazy L.
Okay.
We call it the Californian.
All right.
Okay, but it's 32 feet long down the middle, and even though it's raining, we're not pouring concrete. We've already done a 1-foot concrete base around the pool, so his men can be in here working and doing the stone coping and the tumbled Brussels block.
Now, you said a custom pool, so Dave comes up with the design or the shape of the pool,
right.
And you don't have any problem with different shapes or anything, right?
No, not at all. We can make any shape, size, pool that you want. So, and as you can see, actually, also it's a customized lock-in winter cover, so it looks very, very attractive. Stair board over the stairs. So we put this in, obviously, so to make sure that no dirt falls into the pool during the construction.
Okay, so it'll all be set up and ready to go for them in the spring, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll see the yard once it's completed with the new pool, waterfall, and landscaping. That's next on Pools, Patios, and Decks. Pools, Patios, and Decks. Now let's see the completed yard with brand new patio, pool, and waterfall.
Well, this looks a little bit nicer now that we've got the cover off, John.
It's a lot more attractive in the summer, lots of color with these beautiful plants. Landscape Image has done a terrific job here.
Now, you were working with Landscape Image, who landscaped the backyard. They came up with a design for the yard, and you actually installed the pool, then they came in afterwards and finished off.
That's right, Phil. They recommended us because of this engineered system that we have. You notice that what they've done is they've got a 1-foot flagstone all the way around the perimeter of the pool, and we've got an engineered system where we can put a 1-foot deck rather than gluing the stone right onto the steel where it might cantilever, so that's never going to move.
Okay, so there's a 1-foot concrete deck underneath the stone coping around the pool.
That's right.
That the stone sits on. And you know what? It looks really nice the way that the stone is overhanging the edge of the pool a little bit.
That's right.
And it's stone that we've got for the patio areas around.
Yeah, they've done the paleo paver, and plus they've tied in the stone, obviously, with this beautiful retaining wall. They've got stones around the pool, and you've got this beautiful waterfall that you're enjoying.
I like these stones that we're on right now. This is a really nice added feature for the pool, and we've seen we've seen a fair number of waterfalls, some big, some small. I kind of like the amount of water that is going into the pool right now. It's not too much, not like a mini Niagara Falls.
Well, actually, it's a variable speed, so we can set the return how much water is coming over. So if there's a lot of noise coming over, we can set how much water is coming through. What I like is the fact is that it doesn't look like piled rocks onto the side of the pool. What Dave has done is a wonderful job. They've put actually a retaining wall behind the waterfall. They've built up the area. It was a flat backyard before, so it looks much more natural. It looks like water is naturally coming down from a lower area into the pool.
And the water is actually recirculating from the pool through the waterfall and then back into the pool.
That's right, as a return.
Okay, and we've also got another rock at the other end for jumping, diving.
Well, no, that's the shallow end, but it's a nice area to sit. And hopefully the kids don't use this as a diving area. But we can see that it's a nice sized pool because it's 16 by 32 Athenian, so you've got a 32-foot long lap swim. And the deep end is wide enough to jump in off the side. And the nice thing about this pool also, he's got young kids. The homeowner's got a beautiful area here for a shallow end so that the kids can play. And there's also rope hooks and buoys that is optional that goes across there.
In the shallow end, too, I like the stairs that you put in because I can see some bubbles coming out. We've got jacuzzi jets, hydrotherapy
The
jets.
jacuzzi jets, we can shut off the pressure coming back into the pool through the returns into the waterfall. We can have all the pressure coming into the stairs, keep the stairs clear, plus there's a jacuzzi action. Plus, you can divert all the heat going into that area if the pool's a little bit cool, acclimatize yourself to the pool right away.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
The liner looks nice, too.
Yeah, it's a white mosaic. The nice thing about the liner with the patterned bottom, there's some trees in the area, and so obviously we're going to have dirt. It's a very clean pool. We just took out the barracuda, so there's very little vacuuming. But we don't want to notice any dirt, so with that patterned bottom, it makes the water shimmer. You don't notice the dirt. And with the white background, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see, but we've got a fiber optic lighting in the pool. You don't notice during the day.
I can see one at the other end, and I think there's one right down into the rock.
That's right, that's right. And the nice thing about the white background, it reflects the light at night. And also we've got a perimeter fiber optic, which outlines the shape of the pool and the coping.
If you have any questions about your own backyard project and would like some more information, give us a call at area code 416-362-9475.
Hi, and welcome back to Surprise Gardener. I'm your host, Susie Coelho. And today we're creating a garden with the look and feel of a Northwest forest. Now, this is going to be for our homeowners, Jackie and Lou, and our landscape designer, Giulio Shambari, has picked out some wonderful plants and materials to create this very special design. Let's take a look at some of them right now. Hollywood Twisted Juniper is an evergreen tree. It has beautiful green branches with an irregular twisted appearance. Because of its unique growth, it is a fantastic focal point in your garden. There are over 100 varieties of juniper, something for every garden. This juniper takes full sun or partial shade and can be grown in all climate zones. It requires little water, but you should increase watering in very hot periods. African sumac is an evergreen tree grows slowly up to 25 feet and has leaves that divide into 3 willow-like dark green leaflets. Its canopy style of growth makes it a great shade tree, and it requires little water once established. In other areas, you can substitute the African sumac with a black Japanese pine or Italian stone pine. It takes full sun. Buffalo juniper. In keeping with our theme, we feature another evergreen shrub that takes full sun or partial shade. It has beautiful, bright green foliage, and it grows only up to 1 foot high, but can grow out to 8 feet in width, spreading and mounding. Buffalo juniper is good for all climate zones and requires some watering in hot areas during summer. If used as a ground cover, it gives the illusion of a lawn without the maintenance of mowing. Pansies are perennials often treated as annuals, especially in mild winter areas. They take full sun or partial shade and are often used for borders and edging, also as ground cover and in containers. Pansies grow 6 to 8 inches in height with smooth, wavy-toothed, oval-shaped leaves. Zones vary by species. Now that we have all the plants and trees picked out, let's head back to the house and see how things are coming along back there. As you can see, our fabulous gardening crew, the Green Team, is already busy at work prepping this yard. They're going to be moving the boulders, they're going to be cleaning and prepping the wall for paint, and then they're going to bring in all the materials that we've already purchased for our yard. Let me tell you more about the design that Julio has created for this forest garden, while our Green Team members take a well-deserved break. To get the look and feel of the Great Northwest, we'll first paint the walls with the same color of the house to bring it all together. Then we'll put in evergreen trees along the right side of the fence. On the left side of the yard, we'll add the Hollywood twisted junipers and the silver dollar eucalyptus. Between the two groupings of trees, we'll plant the buffalo junipers to give the illusion of a rolling meadow. In the midst of our mountain, we'll finish up the waterfall that our homeowner Lou had already started. Next to the evergreen trees on the left, we'll place boulders and a bench facing the waterfall for a rest area. Around the perimeter of the waterfall, we'll plant flower beds filled with primrose and pansies. We'll also build a sundial on top of one of the boulders and sprinkle in more flowers. And finally, we'll top dress the yard with 3 different colors of landscape rock. Coming up, you can make your own garden come alive with the playful sound of water by creating your very own waterfall. And we'll show you an easy way to add a bench to your garden. All that and more on Surprise Gardener.
This is HGTV Canada. Who doesn't like spending time in the garden? And if the only thing...
Welcome back to Surprise Gardener. I'm your host, Susie Coelho. Today we're going to be creating for our homeowners Jackie and Lou a garden reminiscent of the Pacific Northwest. Now, one of the wonderful things about a lush forest is a waterfall. Water is so terrific because it provides not only a soothing, constant movement, but it also creates a shield for unwanted noise. Today we're going to be finishing up a waterfall that Lou had already started. Here is a concrete basin approximately 18 inches deep and holds up to 55 gallons of water. You could do the same using a plastic liner. You'll also need a submersible pump to recirculate the water, an electric extension cord, enough clear 1/4-inch plastic tubing to run the water from the pump to the top of the waterfall, plastic cement, plus several man-made boulders in assorted sizes. These boulders can be purchased in a variety of sizes and shapes. As you can see, we're finishing up Lou's basin before we start with the fountain. Place your man-made boulders where you want them. Those are your foundation boulders, so be sure that they are firmly and tightly in place. Next, Following the instructions on the package, mix your mortar or concrete. Apply the mortar between the cracks and to the tops of the boulders where the next level of boulders will sit. Don't place any mortar on the boulders where the water will flow. Also, leave enough space at the top for your 1/4-inch tube to get through the boulder. We are spray painting ours to give it a granite look. Ask your local nursery for other ideas. Then hook the tube to the pump. Put a layer of river rock on the bottom. Fill the pond with water and plug in your power. Then sit back, relax, and enjoy the beauty of your new waterfall. Remember that we finished up a project that our homeowner Lou had already started. When building your own waterfall from scratch at home, you could do the same using a plastic liner. Then place your boulders around the basin. Then insert your tube through the boulders at the top. Apply the mortar to the gaps between the boulders. Attach the tube to the pump. Put a layer of river rock on the bottom. And then fill your basin with water. And plug in your pump. Let's see what Julia's up to. Julia, this looks like a lot of fun. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Susie?
Good.
So we created a sundial here for the garden.
Oh, a wonderful conversation piece.
It really is.
How did you make it?
Well, I took a plate, first of all, and I placed it in the center, and I drew a circle around the center of the plate, using it as a template.
Oh, perfect.
Then what I did was I took my compass and I found my north arrow. So once I found north, then I was able to place my center point in the middle of the sundial. And you know, I started about an hour ago, and that was at 12 o'clock right here. And you can see right now the time is about 1 o'clock.
Right.
So from that point, I divided this into 4 equal parts. And then I took these white rocks that I found in the garden and just placed them around for the different hours.
You know, this is something that kids would love, wouldn't they?
You know, it's a fun thing for everybody to get involved in.
Now, can I help you with it?
Absolutely. I'm almost done, and I've got a little paintbrush for you
good.
right there.
Let's finish it up.
There you go. Let's jump right in.
Julia, I'm so impressed. This place is really coming together so beautifully with the trees in and the waterfall. I'm just amazed. It really has the feel of the Pacific Northwest.
Well, thanks, Susie. You know, I used some of the taller trees in the back to really break this area up. You know, and as they grow, they're going to create a canopy and really give you a real private garden area. It's going to feel like the Great Northwest.
Well, great. Now, what about this little thing?
Well, Jeff and I, the leader of the green team, what we did was we picked up some wood and we recycled it that we found in the yard when we started. We cut them in 36 inches and we screwed them together. We put a coat of paint on it, the same paint that we used on the back wall.
Right.
Set a couple of boulders in and kind of eyeballed their level.
Oh, and it goes right between.
It's perfect.
Boy, that's handy, and then you can take it out and remove it, repaint it, or change it.
Or it's a great spot to sit and watch the waterfall.
Let's check it out. Oh, yeah, this is a great spot. Oh, it's great back here. You just created something wonderful.
Hey, thanks, Susie.
You're welcome. To make a removable wooden bench, you need to first cut the wood to the size you want. Next, screw 2 cross pieces to hold the seating surface together. Then paint your bench and level 2 boulders that will be used for the supports. Finally, place your bench on the boulders. Coming up next, we'll give all the plants and trees their very own drink of water by installing a drip irrigation system in our forest garden. Then we'll surprise our homeowners, Jackie and Lou, when they see their wonderful dream come true. All on Surprise Gardener. Welcome back to Surprise Gardener. I'm Susie Coelho. Now, Jackie and Lou have been terrific this far, but I don't think they're going to last much longer. I better check with Julio to see what the progress is. So what are you doing with the paint?
Well, I'm getting ready to paint out the irrigation areas and the rock separation, Susie.
Well, I noticed that you're using 3 different kinds of rock here. Why is that?
Well, I'm going to use the heavier rock in the background and the lighter rock in the front. That way it's easier for the homeowners to walk on, and it gives you more of that lush northwest you know, forest effect.
Right. Now, 3 different sizes as well. Well, it's coming along beautifully. I'm telling you, you're doing a great job. Now, what's the green team up to now?
Well, I think they're getting ready to put in the irrigation system.
Let's go watch.
Let's go check them out.
When creating your garden, it's always important to think of water. Your plants and trees are going to get thirsty. And with all of us leading such busy lives, the solution to this problem is an irrigation system. We're using a drip system, one that is perfect for many different soils, climates, and terrains. To get started, you can find a kit at your local garden store that comes with easy-to-follow instructions. You start by digging a trench from your water supply through your garden. You're only running one main line, so don't get overambitious. Place your main hose in the trench. Now, for your plants and trees, you'll use the microtubing. There is a tool provided in the kit to attach the microtubing to the main line. Just punch a hole in the main hose, then insert the larger barbed end of the dripper into the hose. Connect your microtube to the dripper and run the tube to your plant. Then push a stake into the ground and attach the microtube to the stake. If you make a mistake punching a hole, don't panic. The kit comes with goof plugs to patch up any mishaps. Continue the process for all your plants and trees. Turn it on to flush any dirt out of the system and check for leaks. Then use the figure-8 piece to close the end of the main hose. Once that is done, cover the main line with earth. The microtubing can be buried too if you wish, but the watering end should remain above ground near the plant. For automatic systems, you can buy controllers at your local store. Now all that's left for us to do is dress our yard with landscape rock, which will also hide our drip system. To give those thirsty plants a drink, go to your local garden store and pick out the drip system that's best for you. Dig a trench where you'll place your main line. Then connect the main line to the water. Attach the microtubing and run it to the plant or tree. Flush the system, checking for leaks, and cap off the end of the main line. Finally, fill in your trench and be sure to leave the watering ends above the ground. Boy, our green team has really outdone themselves this time. Now, before we bring out our homeowners, Jackie and Lou, let's recap for you what we did. We cleaned and leveled the yard and moved the boulders. After that, we prepped and painted the fence, dug the holes and planted our trees and shrubs. Then we finished up the waterfall and pond our homeowner Lou had started. We built and placed our bench on the boulders and created our very own sundial. Then we finished putting in the rest of our evergreens and flower beds for color. Later, we chalked out our separate stone areas and installed a drip irrigation system. After that, we laid our granite pathway for the yard and finally top-dressed our various areas with pink and white sandstone pebbles and river rock. Come on, watch your step. Are you guys excited?
Yeah.
You've been waiting all day for this. Okay, a little further. I'm going to place you right here.
Okay.
Okay, a little further. Okay, back up, back up.
Okay.
Stop, stop, stop. Okay, on your, ready? 1, 2, 3, right? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
This is beautiful. This is really nice.
Remember, this is what the garden looked like before. And this is what the garden looks like now.
And look at the beautiful
Now, that's what I was trying to do.
I know, and we finished it for you.
Thank you, Susie.
Oh, you're welcome.
You have made me so happy.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You love it?
Yes, it's beautiful.
You can sit there and have a morning. I love that. Well, we had a lot of help here today. But I'm so thrilled that you like it so much. It really created that beautiful Northwest feel, didn't it?
Yeah.
A dream
come
here.
See?
A dream come true? Oh,
My paradise. Thank you
oh,
so
you're
much.
so welcome. Before, after.
Oh, beautiful.
And listen to the sound. That's so peaceful. Isn't it peaceful?
Beautiful trees.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad you enjoy it. You guys will have some wonderful, wonderful moments out here. I know it will be peaceful and enjoyable for both of you.
Very, very
Oh,
much. Let me
you're
give you another
very
hug.
welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
very
much.
welcome.
Get all this.
In one day.
Oh my goodness, it took me forever. You didn't
Well, we have an amazing green team, and we had a wonderful landscape designer, Julia Shambari. Before, after. Jackie and Lou, this is our landscape designer, Julia Shambari.
How you doing,
Lou,
Julia?
nice to meet you.
This is beautiful.
Thank you very much.
More than we ever could have imagined.
Well, we got the waterfall finished.
Yes, you did.
And
Thank
enjoy
you.
it. Thanks to our landscape designer, Julia Shambari, and our fabulous green team. This has been another surprising garden makeover. From all of us here at Surprise Gardener, join us again for another surprising garden makeover, right here on Surprise Gardener.
Hello, I'm Kathy Renwald, and welcome to Calling All Gardeners, where we follow the arrival of spring all across Canada. In my garden, in Zone 6, we're still waiting for the daffodils to appear, but luckily the crocus are up and blooming. So if you're perplexed by what is or what isn't happening in your garden, phone us. I'm here to answer your questions at 1-888-656-GROW. Calling All Gardeners offers horticultural help every Wednesday for the next 7 weeks. Coming up, horticulturist Stephen Westcott Grattan will give us the dirt on preparing soil for a fruitful planting season. But first, let's get some landscaping advice from garden personality and expert Mark Cullen, who has a new book out, Canadian Garden Design. Mark, I've flipped through it. It looks like it's got a lot of great creative ideas.
Thank you. I'm glad you think so.
Well, you have to be an expert about design now that you've written the book, and we have a challenge for you today.
I see that.
Yes, we have a house here, and we have an owner, Brenda Willows, who is on the line with us. She recently purchased this property, and she wants to put a garden in, so she's going to look to you for a lot of landscaping advice. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
Well, we're waiting to see what are some of your priorities in your front yard, what you would like Mark to help you with.
Well, I'd like to integrate the house with the property and soften the corners of the house and create a welcoming entrance. And I'd like to incorporate some shrubs such as lilacs and dogwoods and mock orange. And I have quite a few perennials that I brought from my other house, such as daylilies and daisies and coral bells and delphiniums.
So she's got some perennials to start
Yes,
with.
that's
I guess we
wonderful.
need to know some of the basics, like her lot size. We've got a sketch here. Brenda,
Yeah.
how big is your property?
It's 150 by 150.
Okay.
And we're starting with the front yard then. We've got a clean slate, don't we?
The exposure. Need to know the exposure.
South.
Okay.
Lucky.
Can I ask a couple more questions,
Sure.
Kathy?
Mhm.
Brenda, tell me something about your approach to gardening. Would you define yourself as a low-maintenance gardener or not necessarily?
No, I enjoy spending lots of time outside working in the garden. So I
Okay.
enjoy it very much.
You mentioned that you have some perennial flowers that you'd obviously like incorporated into the plan. Would you like to expand on that concept and possibly create an English country garden look or something more formal?
No, an English cottage garden look would be more what I had in mind.
What about shade? Are you looking for shade on the southern exposure? It's going to be hot, you know.
Yes, some shade would be great.
So we're going to be looking at shade trees plus the shrubs that you referred to and the perennials. What about evergreens? Can we add some bones to the garden that will look good through the winter months, like junipers and yews?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Another question. This is a lifestyle and rather personal question, but do you have kids?
No.
Do you want to use the front yard as an activity area, or do you want it more as something that greets you as you arrive home at the end of the day and greets visitors as they arrive at your home?
More for greeting visitors, but also to look out from the living room and the dining room down to the garden. You can see that the windows at the front of the house, they face out to the front, so
Very
I
good
enjoy
point.
looking out.
How your landscape looks from the inside of your home is so important,
People
Kathy,
forget about
as you
it,
know.
yep.
They do forget about it, and I'm so glad that it's already occurred to Brenda that this is a factor. Now, there's something else I have to ask, and that is, here at the front we have no hard landscaping whatsoever. There's
Right.
no walkway other than a little bit of gravel. Do you have in your mind's eye pictured something that might include the use of interlocking brick or flagstone in the way of a walkway or a paved driveway?
I was thinking of small stones, like pea gravel, a path that would go across the house and around to the side deck.
Okay.
See on the sketch.
And you're prepared to shovel a little bit of pea gravel up with the snow when you're clearing the driveway in the winter? It's going to end up on your lawn, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm open to suggestions.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that. I have to ask about the lawn, too, because this
Right.
is an issue in Canadian gardens coast to coast.
How much lawn do you want?
How
right?
much lawn? How passionate do you feel about lawn maintenance and about the use of a lawn in the first place?
Well, I'd much rather have the plants than the grass.
So you are a high-maintenance gardener.
She's one of my kind. Get the plants in. Okay.
All right.
So where would you start, Mark?
Well, I would start with a shade tree. The very first thing I would do is put a tree in here that provides the kind of shade that Brenda's probably imagining here. You want to cool the house down. Now, there's an economic reason for this, too, and that is by applying some shade to the southern half of the house or side of the house, not only by way of a shade tree, but also with some vines, and we'll get to that in a minute, Kathy. You can reduce your energy savings by 30 to 40%. Cool that south side of the house with the humidifying effect of vines and shade trees, and it's amazing the impact it has on your energy bill in the summer. Assuming that you air condition your home anyhow.
No, just ventilation.
Okay, well that's just fine.
It's even
But
more
this
important
This
then.
is more important because now you can open the windows and enjoy the natural cooling effect of these plants around your home to a far greater degree than what would happen if you just left it the way it is. By the way, what's this thing right in the middle of the yard?
That's the well.
That's the well.
The well,
Yeah,
so we can disguise that, I think, right?
You're going to disguise it, or you're going to put one of those pumps on it?
No, thank you.
Okay, okay.
So we got a big tree in the corner. What else?
Yes, for certain we have a big tree in the corner, and we're going to put a foundation planting around here with an eye to protecting, no, let me put it this way. You see these windows at the bottom. You have to watch that you don't cover them up with something, and so we have to plan for that. We want
That's
to
a bit
hide.
of a challenge, isn't it?
It's a bit of a challenge. There's a lot of challenges in this house because it has an odd design. You see this sort of soffit effect here from the extension of the main floor of the house. Well, that's going to provide for a real watering problem underneath it. All right, so we're going to talk about that later on in the show. We're going to hide this downspout. We're going to create some shade here at the corner of the house. We're going to put some vines on it, and you have to tell me about color. Just how do you feel about having color at the front yard, or is color something you'd rather reserve for the backyard?
No, I don't mind the sort of soft pinks and blues and whites.
Cool colors.
Roses, yeah.
Great. Now, another question I'd have to ask every Canadian gardener, because these are hot topics these days. Wildlife. Is that, once again, something you want to happen in the backyard, the attracting of butterflies and hummingbirds, or at the front yard, or is that something you'd like to happen in the backyard, or have you given it no thought at all?
No, I'd like it throughout the property, whether it's at the front or the back.
So Brenda basically wants it all.
She wants everything.
And that's just fine. Tell me about the soil conditions. We have to know that before we can do any work at all.
It was previously farmland, so I understand it's really quite good soil.
Well, the developer didn't strip the topsoil off and leave the clay base exposed?
No, he scraped it away and put back the subsoil and then put the topsoil back on.
Oh, okay. That is, you are so fortunate. You know, so many builders don't do that.
I know.
And that's wonderful.
Well, I think, Mark, now your challenge is to take the cap off the pen.
Right.
And you have to get sketching.
I'm going to get sketching.
You're going to get sketching, so thank you very much.
We've already got a tree right here.
Yes, we do. So
we know that for sure.
We're going to check in with you later. And Brenda, we'll have you back on the line as well. And after this break, Mark and I will take your landscaping calls. In the meantime, let's hear what's on this gardener's mind.
I have a country place in Collingwood, and it's 3 acres, and I have about an acre of blank field, and I look forward to a meadow, but I don't know where to begin.
For a couple of seasons, and that you can open a can of wildflower mixture and just have an instant meadow, but I don't think it's that easy. If anything, if she has grasses in her field, I would let those grow up. I would buy started plants, things like black-eyed Susans and Coreopsis. Put those started plants into your grass, those are plants that will seed and they'll have vigorous growth, and hopefully those will add to the grassy look of your meadow, but very difficult to do it from seed. I'm going to walk over to Mark Cullen and ask him about that, because I imagine many people were under the illusion that it was a simple matter of scattering the seed and you had a beautiful meadow, right?
Like everything else in gardening, Kathy, as you know, 90% of your success comes about as a result of the ground prep. You have to do the preparation. Good soil means a good start for all the plants you sow from seed. If you open a can of wildflower seed, you're also opening a can of worms. This is not.
And a can of weeds, right?
A can of weeds if you're not careful. So you have to know that by sowing these seeds, you are also producing a certain amount of work. In other words, maintenance or the nurturing of those plants, because the plants that establish themselves are not all native.
That's right.
60% or more are not.
You have to be able, as these plants germinate, to tell the difference between weeds and flowers. And if you're not an experienced gardener, it's very difficult, isn't it?
True.
We're going to encourage some more people to call. If you have a question, do give us a call. The number is 1-888-656-GROW. I noticed in your book you did talk about meadows and wildflowers and some of the trends in gardening. And Brenda here certainly is on top of one, which is the English cottage look, right?
Big time,
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
I can tell you as a retailer in the business that the fastest growing segment of the business, Kathy, is that of the perennials. The perennials are growing so quickly in popularity. And it's not just that people want perennial peonies and daylilies and astilbes and hostas, but they want also what's new. And it's amazing how sophisticated Canadian gardeners are becoming.
That's exciting, though, for everyone, I think.
It is, because it's driving the market into another stage in its development altogether. We're reaching new heights and new standards, and it is exciting.
We have some calls, Mark, on the line. Mary Lou from Pembroke, Ontario.
Hi,
Welcome.
Kathy. Hi, Mark.
Hi. What's your question?
I'm looking about growing bottle gourds or basket gourds for painting, like folk art painting and that type of thing.
Right.
I have been successful in getting them to grow. This is a zone 5 up here. But they don't seem to be able to mature. Is it that the growing season is too short up here and I'm just beating myself against the wall, or is there a possibility that there's something in your infinite wisdom that can
I've never
inspire me?
grown a gourd, certainly, but my guess is that the season isn't long enough for her. What do you think?
You have to consider yourself like a championship pumpkin grower. You have to start about the 4th week of April indoors by soaking the seed in wet toweling for a few days, get the seed to break through that skin, and then plant it out into a container that's biodegradable, like a peat pot, and then plant that out in the garden. You get a good early start, then the season can be long enough in zone 5 for a gourd.
Good luck with that, Mary Lou.
What about Himalayan blue poppies?
Oh, my. Now, that's a big challenge. I've seen a lot of gardens in the last 10 years, and I've seen one Himalayan poppy, just one, because they are very difficult. You can get them to germinate, but to get them to last in your garden and bloom is difficult, from what I've heard.
I guess. I've never seen one. So
I've
you got one up on me.
I would say most people I know that try to grow them, they just try over and over again and hope that one year it'll succeed in living long enough that you'll have a bloom, but it's not easy, and it might be a bit cold where you are as well. Thanks, Mary Lou, for your question. That's interesting. You're talking about rare perennials and things like that, and people are really looking for the unusual, aren't they?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. About 15 years ago, there were 600 different hosta varieties to choose from. Today, there's over 6,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
We have another call, Mark. Judy from Whitby, Ontario. Hi.
Hi.
What's your question, Judy?
I have a question about growing vines, and I know you've mentioned them on the design you're going to do. Incorporating them with other shrubs, and how do you know what to choose and where do you place them with other shrubs and plants and stuff in front of them?
You have a lot of selection with vines, which is wonderful. And you have to know the basics, like your exposure, your soil, and you want to know how vigorous the vines are. If you want them to grow on the house, you need to know whether they need supports or whether they'll cling to the house. What's some of the vines that you would recommend for a situation like this?
Well, when it's hot like this, you have to be careful that you don't use something that really prefers a cool location. Something that flowers is perfect for sunny locations, and it's usually the reverse problem. People trying to grow in the shade vines that produce flowers.
Right.
And I don't know of one that's really reliable other than, and this is for maybe part shade, that would be the climbing hydrangea.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
about the only one that really provides a flower in the shade.
Beautiful vine, slow to establish, though,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Heather from Burlington, Ontario. Hello, what's your question?
Hi, I have a problem with ground covers.
I put in a ground cover periwinkle under my new pine tree when we did a front island bed about 5 years ago. We were all so hot about ground covers then, and about how well they would survive. They sure do. It's started to grow up into the pine tree. It's pretty much taking over that end of the bed. And I'd rather put perennials in at this point and you know, in the middle of the bed. I'd like to get rid of the periwinkle into the pine. I think it's competing for it. But I know if there's any root left in that soil at all, I'm not going to be able to get rid of it. And I don't like the idea of digging around and disturbing the pine roots, maybe.
Right. It's funny, I've never heard of periwinkle be that aggressive that it would grow up into the tree. I mean, certainly ivy and things like that. Does she have much soil to work with there? Would she be disturbing the roots of the pine?
Well, I'd be more concerned if she was replacing the Vinca periwinkle with perennials. Most perennials would be more deeply rooted than the perennial, periwinkle. And I really can't think of a much better choice than what she's already got established there. And she doesn't appreciate this, I'm sure. But she's in one of the best areas in the country to grow Vinca periwinkle.
Down in Burlington?
Oh yeah, 10 miles north of there are thinking, I wish I could grow it, you know, to the extent that it was so aggressive it was growing up the pine tree, for crying out loud.
Usually you're right. They have a problem. It's not aggressive enough. So we think you're lucky, Heather, and maybe you want to stick with the periwinkle and put some more benign things around it that don't go too deeply. Thanks very much for your call. And Mark, I'll let you start working on Brenda's landscaping design. When Calling All Gardeners returns, we're off to see the beautiful blooms in Victoria, BC, and I'll dig up the answer to this viewer's question.
I have a Joe Pye weed that is about 3 years old. Now, my question is, may I divide that now, or should I wait until autumn?
The plant that Claire from Toronto was asking about before we went to the break. It is Joe Pye weed, and the question was, when is the best time to divide this perennial? Well, my friends at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Burlington, Ontario, dug this clump up for me today, so obviously the best time to divide Joe Pye weed is the springtime, and you can see I just took a kitchen knife really and sliced off a chunk here. Joe Pye, I should mention, is a wonderful perennial for moist locations. It blooms in late summer, in August, September, so it's something to add to the late autumn border or the late summer border. Dusty purple blossoms. Look for a cultivar called Gateway. It's a really nice plant. Now, in parts east of British Columbia, the signposts of spring are appearing, but we can't compete with the visual heaven of cherry blossoms and daffodils on Vancouver Island. That is the setting for horticulturist David Lewis as he shows us the sights in Beacon Hill Park.
It's a beautiful sunny spring day here in Victoria. We're in Beacon Hill Park. Back over my shoulder there's actually a flowering plum. It's called a Meroplin plum. It's one of the first trees to start blooming in the springtime. You'll find after that finishes blooming that very often the cherry trees start. Let's go take a look at some. This cherry tree is just beginning to come into bloom right now. Beneath that we've got some wallflowers, and they'll be coming into bloom in a couple weeks, just as the cherry tree is beginning to fade. By having one plant coming in after the other, it extends the bloom season and makes for a very pretty show. Let's go look at some more flowers. When you've got bulbs that are naturalized beneath trees, of course they're coming up early in the springtime and produce some blooms. But one thing you have to watch out for is you want to make sure that you do leave the foliage to remain right until the midsummer, until it dies down. If you cut it down prematurely with a lawnmower or weed eater or something like that, you're going to find, unfortunately, that the bulbs aren't going to come up very well the following year. Here we've got a flower bed full of polyanthus. They're actually a hybrid between different varieties of primula. Now, one of the nice things is bright colors first thing in the springtime. If you're lucky, you also have some blooms in the fall as well. They're an evergreen perennial. Now, one thing you do have to watch out for is, in fact, in the summertime, they'll often burn down to the ground. They don't like a hot, dry, sunny spot. So make sure you plant them beneath a deciduous tree where they get full sun in the winter and some shade in the summertime. Also, on top of that, if you do happen to have them in a sunny location right now, when they're finished blooming, make sure you transplant them somewhere a bit more shady so they survive the summer. Here we are in a woodland garden, and there's a lot of dappled light coming down onto the plants, I guess what you call partial shade. Here we've got a Skimmia japonica. It's a really nice looking plant. It's evergreen, does very well in these conditions. In fact, it doesn't like any direct sun at all. One thing you have to watch out for is that they're separate male and female plants. So the females, which produce berries later on in the season, you have to make sure there's a male plant nearby in order to pollinate it. One thing to keep in mind is that they have glorious blooms in February and March. Another plant we've got over here is rhododendrons. They're going to be blooming probably sometime in about the next month or so. Beautiful foliage plant as well, also evergreen. A little bit further along, we've got a sword fern. Now, one of the really nice things you can do with sword ferns is they naturalize very nicely in a shady location in the garden, very resistant to drought, just a very good all-round foliage plant. Last plant over here is Choisia trinata. The common name is Mexican orange. It's got beautiful scented blooms mid-May. Just a very nice foliage plant. An added bonus is also that it's deer resistant. You'll find the deer do not eat it. It's one of the few deer resistant plants I know that really works. One of the things that probably makes most gardeners in Canada green with envy is here on the coast we can actually grow palm trees. This is a windmill palm. It's probably been in the ground, I would say, for about 30-odd years to get to this size. You can see how the trunk's very, very fuzzy. It's also a darn big, tall tree as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is they're not going to grow everywhere. You have to make sure it's quite a protected area. If you do have any questions about planting one, ask somebody at a local nursery, because they can tell you a lot more about where it works well and where it doesn't work so well. But it's just an absolutely stunning plant. This is about the only part of Canada you can grow it in.
David Lewis is on the line from Victoria. Hi, David. That was beautiful.
Hi, Kathy.
You had some interesting points in there. You talked about deer damage, and that is something everybody across Canada can relate to. Is it a big problem out there?
It's a really big problem. The thing is, the deer here, they don't seem to know when to slow down for the winter time. In fact, they probably do more feeding damage in the winter than in the summer.
Sure, I bet they do. And when I looked at your pictures, we're talking about landscape design tonight, and you really have that beautiful layered look there of the trees in bloom, shrubs, and then sort of a ground cover of perennials and so on. It's really a nice way to think about designing your garden, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Lots of different layers, different bloom seasons, different colors, different textures. They can all be incorporated in a really nice-looking landscape.
You're so lucky, though, that your blooming season, it reminds me of the books that we see here in this part of Canada from England, where you have those wonderful combinations of plants and bloom that we can never do here. So it seems like the spring garden might be one of the most beautiful times of all there.
It is. It's kind of interesting. Right on the coast, we actually have a very, very long, slow, cool spring. It lasts for about 4 to 5 months. I guess the middle of winter and summer are quite short, so there's a very long season for all kinds of plants to come into bloom, go out of bloom, the next one come into bloom, to sort of draw out the whole season.
That's perfect for bulbs, isn't it? Because here often we get spring one day, and the next day it's 80 degrees, and those poor daffodils and tulips are keeling over. So you get to enjoy them.
Yeah, no, definitely. The length of the blooms on the bulbs is really great, particularly the early blooming ones, things like the daffodils and crocus, etc. The length of bloom season is many more weeks than you'd have, say, back east where things heat up so quickly.
Are people really mad about bulbs there, spring bulbs? They use them a lot in their garden designs?
I would say so, definitely. And there's so many to choose from. They're just they're a wonderful plant, particularly in a garden where you're maybe not going to be watering a huge amount in the summertime, because, of course, a lot of them are dormant, so you can just naturalize them very nicely.
Well, David, thanks very much for that preview of what we have to look forward to.
Sure, you bet.
We always have to remind ourselves that before the gratification of flowers in the garden, we first have to build a firm foundation by creating the best soil possible. Horticulturist Stephen Westcott Grattan is here to talk about the very basic thing of the garden, and that is soil.
That's right, Kathy. It all begins with the soil. And basically, no matter what you put in your garden afterwards, if the soil isn't prepared properly, it's going to lead to tears.
Lead to tears. And what do we need to know? I mean, there's some very basic soil types that we encounter.
There are. And the two extremes that we want to avoid, but that, as Mark was saying, many people end up with, especially if they buy a new home, is something like this, which is clay, very dry, very small particles, not a porous material,
right,
like sand, which has much larger granules. And they need to be treated somewhat differently, but the easiest way to find out which you have is to do a not very scientific texture test.
Right.
So we have some prepared samples here.
What do we have here?
I have some clay and you have some sand.
Right.
And we've moistened them up a little bit. And basically what you do is grab a hunk and roll it between your fingers and see what happens.
Well, I know what's happening here. This is like my soil.
Yours is falling apart,
right,
and I'm getting a big lump.
Like a cigar.
And it's sticky, which is another attribute of clay. But all is not lost. Both things have good stuff going for them.
Right.
So what we want to do to get these two extremes into something usable is add organic matter.
Correct, and they're both for each type of soil, right? They help
Exactly.
both. Yeah.
And there's certainly a lot of different ones to choose from. Compost, manure, all help not only to improve the texture of your soil, but also to enrich it. Keep it fat. That's what the Elizabethan gardeners
You
used
know,
to call.
with clay, everybody thinks it's the most terrible soil to have, but I think your plants look better if you work with clay. Like I have sand and they're often looking, you know, droopy, anemic. Clay holds nutrients, doesn't it?
It holds nutrients and it also holds water much better. People with really sandy soil do have to be a lot more vigilant about watering than people with clay. With clay we get other problems, compaction, you know, cool soils, roots have difficulty penetrating, but as I say, if you add organic matter, you can overcome that problem.
And it's good to know that organic matter improves both soils. We're going to hear more about that. Thank you, Stephen. When we come back, we'll do a pH test on our soil, and Stephen and I will answer this composting question.
Last fall, I was a little overzealous, I think, in cleaning up our yard, and I put a bunch of cedar that had fallen from the tree in our compost pile. And I'm wondering now if in the spring that I shouldn't use the compost on my garden because of the tannins, or if it's okay if it broke down enough over the winter.
Just before the break, Hillary from Victoria, BC asked about using compost, which contained a lot of cedar clippings, and adding it to her garden. I'm going to ask Stephen about that. Some people are worried about adding a lot of one certain plant material. Will cedar clippings alter her compost at all?
They will to a certain degree. Evergreens are good in the compost, but it's usually a good idea to shred them up a bit. Certainly things like pine needles, they disturb really good soil guys like worms.
Yes.
They help with aeration, but they're just too sharp and pointy for the worm's soft body. So if you can mash it up a bit beforehand or really wait for it to break down. Then it's fine.
That's a good point. And before we get into the soil pH testing, we have Kathy from Brandon, Manitoba. Kathy, hello. What's your question?
Hi there. Well, I've got a small rectangular backyard, and it's our yard is sloped down from the neighbor's yard, and so that there's about 8 inches difference between what runs off from their yard and down into ours. So I've got a big, wet, soggy patch that grass is difficult to grow there, plants, and I'm not sure what I can do about it. And would it be suitable to plant perennials and other things there, or should I just give up and make it a big patio or something?
Well, that's an interesting question. Do you work with this soggy spot, or do you try to alleviate the problem? There are certainly plants that will do well in wet conditions.
I tend to really go with the flow and what nature gives you, because if you have a wet, soggy spot in one part of your yard, it's equally possible that you'll have a dry, you know, hard pan one in another area, and there are plants that do very well in those conditions. Perennials like Ligularia, which in a regular garden will flop due to lack of water, would look splendid there.
Joe Pyeweed's another one. I'm not quite sure if it's hardy there, but that's another one that would do well in wet conditions.
A lot of the primulas will do well.
So pretty in springtime then, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
And goat's beard, that's another good plant for wet conditions. So the consensus might be, Kathy, give it a try. There are definitely perennials that will do well in moist locations, and they'll give you a different look to your garden than the drier spots. So good luck with it, and thank you for your call, Kathy. We're going to get to the testing of pH, and that's something I have to do with my soil. So let's see how you do it.
Well, this is a very easy way to do it. There are little kits that you can buy at any garden supply place. You can have it done a much more in-depth test through any Ontario or any provincial Ministry of Agriculture.
Right.
But if you really want to just know ballpark, this is the way to go about it. And I think we're going to do one each.
Okay.
You basically get a little vial, you fill it to the first line with the soil you want to test.
Yes.
And you should, when you're testing in your garden, you should get soil from about 4 inches down. You don't want to use the top bit because that may have been amended, or you know, if you've had fertilizer on your lawn, it could skew the results.
Right.
So.
Okay.
And we have some distilled water here. You can't use tap water. And we just fill that up to the marker.
A very tiny little vial to fill up.
And then there is, I guess you'll need to shake a little bit of that.
Put the cap back on?
That's right.
Okay.
There's also a little tab that goes in to activate it, a little capsule. And if you can do it without spilling too much, I like to tap them down a bit.
Okay. And are these tests fairly accurate?
They'll certainly let you know if you're neutral, alkaline, or acid.
Okay.
They won't give you an exact numerical measurement.
Right.
But
I can't set mine down, so I'll let you break this cap open.
Okay, sure thing.
And very important to know what your soil is so that you can be putting the right plants in. You don't want to waste money putting in plants in soil conditions that they're going to not thrive in.
No, because some plants really won't tolerate it. I mean, blueberries, for instance, if you're trying to grow them in alkaline soil, you'll never get anywhere with it.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, there are lots of plants that really only like alkaline soil conditions, and I think we have some behind us here.
Right.
Pretty much anything in the carnation family is happy in very alkaline conditions, and baby's breath, the Latin name for that is gypsophila, referring to gypsum, which of course is an alkaline.
Sure, product. And we shake these, do we?
We
Obviously.
do. We shake them up.
Okay.
And then we're going to have to leave them for a few minutes.
All right. We have other examples here on the table then of plants that would be happier in acid conditions.
We do, and a lot of people really begin with alkaline soil and decide they want rhododendrons, that's a big one, and of course they're close relative of azaleas. Things like holly, a lot of woodland plants like trillium all need acid soil. So people usually want to move from alkaline to acid rather than from acid to alkaline.
Right, yes.
Unfortunately, it's a little more difficult, but it's certainly doable.
And hydrangeas, too, tell you a lot, right? Especially these guys, macrophylla, right?
They're a great indicator plant. They're one of those plants that will grow in either condition, but they, as you can see, behave quite differently. If you have an acid soil, they'll be blue, and if alkaline...
This beautiful blue.
Yes, it'll be pink. And certainly if you have a plant, you'll know immediately what your soil pH is.
Stephen, I think Luba from Scarborough, Ontario has a question. Hi, Luba, what's your question?
Hi. I'm, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have, in our front, we have a whole, a cedar hedge, but it's not a hedge, it's trees. And I want to build about a 3-foot bed there, and I want to know what to do with the soil there. Is there something special that I have to do? I want to do hostas, because it's shady there most of the day, hostas and ferns, and is there something that I have to do with the soil?
So should she amend her soil? How much can she play with it when it's close to a cedar like that?
Well, in any contest between a perennial and a tree, if they're competing for moisture and nutrients, the tree's going to win every time. So rather than be concerned about the cedar, you should be concerned about the plants, and I think you will have to amend the soil, certainly for the first year while hostas are getting established.
Compost material then? Organic matter?
It's the best. It's the best all around. It'll help feed the plants slowly. The nutrients are there. It can take it up as they need it.
So amend your soil, give the hostas a good home, right? They're the ones that need the nutrients. They're competing against the probably more vigorous roots of the cedar. So good luck with that, and thank you, Luba.
Thank you.
Paula from Toronto, hello, what's your question?
Yes, I put mulch on over my soil over the winter, and I was wondering, can I remove it now, or should I wait a bit longer until it gets a bit warmer?
Stephen, that's interesting because there's a lot of different approaches to mulch, and a lot of it has to do with your soil temperature, what you're trying to grow, are you seeding something into it? What would you do right now in your garden if you had mulched areas?
Well, there are two kinds of mulch, and that's the other thing that people forget. There's the kind that you leave on your garden all season long.
Yes.
And that's to maintain water within the soil and also to suppress any weeds. With that sort of mulch, you may actually at this time of year find that you need to add a little bit more because it will have settled and decomposed throughout the winter. And you want to make sure it's thick enough that it's effective. On the other hand, if you've used a winter mulch, which you apply after the ground is frozen to keep it frozen, now is definitely, I mean, it's even a week or two late to take that off. So if you still have some cedar boughs on beds that you wanted to keep frozen, by all means, get them off now.
It's an issue of timing, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Stephen. We'll obviously make an update about soil pH. You'll stay with us, and we'll see what Mark Cullen has designed for Brenda's front yard and answer your questions, including this one, when Calling All Gardeners returns.
Question about hydrangea and azaleas. Growing them where would be a good spot to grow them, the kind that would be good to grow in Toronto in the kind of climate that we have, and where in the garden they need to be put in order to be protected and to grow to their fullest potential.
how to grow hydrangeas and azaleas before we went to the break. Well, first of all, hydrangeas, these would be very difficult to grow. You see these more in places like Cape Cod where they have the right soil for them. So buy your hydrangeas at a garden center or nursery, so you be sure to get the hardy ones, things like PG hydrangea. They can take some light shade. They like rich, well-drained soil. In times of drought, you want to add some extra water to them, but generally a pretty good, carefree plant to have. Azaleas, like this beauty, and rhododendrons, require more exacting conditions. They want protection from winter winds and winter sun because they can burn otherwise. They like some acid soil in order to be perfectly healthy. And plant them in groups because they seem to do better in groups. So give them the protection that they need and they'll perform wonderfully for you. Right now, we want to go to Mark Cullen and see how he has done with this landscape design and welcome Brenda back on the line. Brenda, how does this look to you?
I can't see it.
Oh, well, it's looking wonderful. I'm sure Mark can explain it
Well,
first.
it maybe needs some explanation too, Kathy. What I wanted to do was incorporate a lot of Brenda's ideas, including the lifestyle stuff. She said she wanted to minimize the amount of lawn area at her front yard, and so I've done that. And I've done it by adding the perennial garden over here, which I assume is to the east because we're facing south, correct?
Right.
And I've put in some, I think, I was going from memory, so remember that, some of the perennials you mentioned and some others that I thought might be useful in a hot, sunny area. For all of our viewers, this is important. This is hot, blazing sun. Lilies, delphiniums, peonies, lavender, artemisia. And I would suggest you make a list of your favorite herbs because most of them come from Mediterranean area anyway.
They'd love it there,
where it's
wouldn't they?
really hot and really sunny. You'll have to travel a little bit from the kitchen to get to them, but that's not such a bad idea. I chose one shade tree, moved it out from the house at least 12 feet or 4 meters. And I used the Shade Master Locust because it has very inobtrusive sort of roots, right? And a lovely filtered shade that one day will provide a canopy over the top of this 2-story building or story-and-a-half building.
But not overpowering like a maple would be.
I wouldn't use a maple. I wouldn't plant a maple by choice, even though my yard is full of them. Mine was a sugar bush before we moved there, so what can I say? I've also added some bones to the garden. This isn't just a perennial garden, but it also has some shrub material and a couple of my favorites listed here. Spireas, I'm a great fan of spirea. Insect and disease resistant, really hardy in her zone 5. Shirobana is one of the few flowering shrubs that has 2 different colored flowers on the same plant.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Also Frobel spirea, look for them. I've added some yews here for permanent shape and texture right through the winter months. Yews and junipers underneath these windows. Remember, you don't want to cover them up, so we're talking low, ground-hugging junipers. Boston ivy to cool the wall of the house and to hide and camouflage to some extent through the growing season. The downspouts, I put some clematis.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I didn't quite stop there. Here's something else that I really want to emphasize is so important if you're trying to extend the enjoyment you get from your yard. Low voltage lighting.
Oh, yes.
And that's what these things are here. There's some pagodas and there are some floods. And I mean, this is very much a personal choice and definitely, too, a budget item because it's not an inexpensive thing to do well. But it is something I would suggest everybody consider. And down this west side of the driveway...
Another hot area, right?
Hot area, hot area, some standard dwarf flowering trees, flowering almond. I call them the Mother's Day flower shrub because they always flower on Mother's Day. So they're a great gift for Mom.
I like how you've extended the garden out, too. A lot of people just have all the action right here, right underneath the windows.
Yes,
so this gives you some depth, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And while I didn't eliminate the lawn altogether, I'm a bit of a fan of the lawn, Kathy. So I want to add that it's still the most sophisticated ground cover, living ground cover known to humankind. So let's not eliminate it altogether. It's a great place for the postal carrier to walk and for you to enjoy. Kind of a, let's call it a way to set off the rest of the landscape, if nothing else.
Brenda, are you still there?
Yes.
And what do you think of these ideas?
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. I love it.
Good.
And something that would be easy to put into effect, I think.
Yes, yes. Remember, there's some maintenance involved here, but you did say you love gardening.
That's right. I do.
Thanks for joining us, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank
Mark,
you
I think we have another caller on the line. Michelle from Mississauga. Hi.
Yes, hi. How are you doing?
Very well. What's your question?
My question is, I would like to simulate a tropical garden in my backyard and wondered living in Mississauga, what types of plants would look tropical and be able to survive, like perennial plants?
I think you can go 2 ways there. Tropical looks are really going to be hot, I think. There are plants that are hardy here that have a tropical look. Things like Aurelia, it's a very thorny plant, but a beautiful horizontal branching form. I'm thinking of that kind of look. Pagoda dogwoods have a nice look like that. The ornamental grasses. And then a lot of people are doing things like big banana plants in containers, and they move them in and out, don't they?
That's true, yeah. Through the winter months, you'd have to bring it indoors. And Ligularia is a large leaf, large flowering plant that tolerates shade, too, you might want to look at.
Hibiscus, I see, mandevilla, which some people bring indoors and overwinter. All those great big leaf plants, right?
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.
And we're going to walk over to Stephen and find out what has happened with our pH soil testing.
Well,
it looks pretty graphic here.
I was going to say, we weren't sure what we were going to get, but the results are clear, and we have vastly different ones.
Yes.
On these little kits, you always get a little chart that shows you, obviously, if it's alkaline, it's going to be dark green, going down to sort of an orange color if it's very acidic. So as you can see, I'm very alkaline, and you're very acidic.
Yes.
So we're going to have to deal with that in two different ways, either by planting the plant material that enjoys our individual conditions, or by amending it.
It's not an easy thing to amend certain types of soil and make it last, though, is it?
No, it's hard to keep acidity in soil that really wants to be basic or alkaline.
Right.
So if you do use something like ammonium sulfate, adding things in like peat moss, shredded oak leaves, will all help, but you really have to stay on top of it, and it probably is going to call for a soil test at least once a year, and you will find that you have to reapply whatever agent you're using to get that pH down.
Probably the best thing is, if you want to amend soil for a specific plant, just do it in a small area and then work with what you have, right?
That's what I do. I just excavate it out and fill it with the requisite soil. It's cheating, but it works.
And generally the neutral range is what we want, right?
Yeah, anything between sort of 6.5 to 7 is optimum for most plants.
Stephen, thank you very much. I know this is very key to having a good garden, knowing what kind of soil you have. Thank you. When we come back, we'll take your last calls and give the viewer answer to this question.
We have problems with grass, which it's originally a swampy area, I was told, when it was built, and then subsequently filled in. I was hoping that I could get some advice as to how to keep the grass in good condition. As it stands now, the grass deteriorates, requires a lot of water.
With sleek lines, a high-torque multi-speed engine, and an exclusive turbo rinse system,
from Markham, Ontario has a grass problem. Before the break, he asked advice on how to keep the grass in good condition. And Mark Cullen, this man, I think, had a swampy, wet area in his yard. How do you deal with grass in an area like that?
Overseed every year. That's the simple answer, and it's not so simple. Of course, improve the drainage to the very best extent possible. Try and get that water to flow to another lower part of the yard, or maybe your neighbor's yard. And I'm quite serious. You rake it this time of year. The snow has recently melted for most parts of Canada, or it's in the process. You rake it. Don't break your back doing it. Get the grass blades to stand up on end. That's all. And where the grass is thin, you put down 1 inch of triple mix or compost, finished compost, right? And about a pound of good quality grass seed for every 400 square feet.
Not too difficult to follow. Thank you. Before we get back to your calls, here are a couple of horticultural events that are happening across the country. April 1st, there is a lecture on the gardens of Ellen Biddle, the renowned landscape architect, at the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens in Vancouver, BC. April 1 to 4, it is the 6th annual Canadian Garden and Flower Show at the International Centre in Mississauga, Ontario. Thank you all for tuning in, and thanks to Mark Cullen, who, by the way, will be joining me from Cullen Gardens in Whitby, Ontario, for 2 one-hour Calling All Gardeners specials on Sunday, May 16th. And thank you, Stephen Westcott Grattan, for helping us with our soil problems. We have a few more minutes to take phone calls, and we would love to hear from you. Carol from Brantford, Ontario. Hi, what's your question?
Hi, I have a front yard. It's a small front yard, about 20 by 20. It's hemmed by concrete in a very formal heritage area, so the houses are very large, 2.5 stories. I hate grass. I'm sorry. What can I put on this lawn, for better words, instead of grass. It's very, very hot, and I could water the thing all day and the grass still would not survive.
So you maybe want to get rid of grass and use some ground covers. I'll involve Mark in this conversation. I heard recently some of the perennial geraniums, people always think of the annual ones, but the true geraniums, I have a very hot, dry garden, and those geraniums do very well. They spread nicely, geranium macrorrhizum, they have beautiful flowers.
Yes.
Some of them are fragrant. It's very, very nice.
Yes, and there are over 150 easily, hundreds in fact, but 150 popular, easy to obtain geranium varieties you're talking about that bear almost no relationship to the geranium you're probably thinking of as we talk. It's not the annual geranium at all. They're fabulous.
You have a small yard, so some good ground covers, perennials for full sun. I think you could do something very nice there, but probably keep it simple in a yard that's that small.
That's right, and bear in mind too, I like to remind people who want to remove their lawn that nothing is going to take the foot traffic like the lawn.
True.
So if it's foot traffic is an issue, stick with the lawn.
Thanks, Carol, and good luck with your small front yard. Brenda in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, hello.
Yes, hello. Last fall I bought 2 silver lace vines, and I kept them in my cold greenhouse because they hadn't been hardened off, and they survived the winter very nicely. I did repot them. I've just put them out on my new arbor, but I've never seen a silver lace vine in Nova Scotia. Is there anything special that I have to do? I've seen them on your show, and they're just beautiful.
They are beautiful, and in our climate, they're wonderful because they flower late in the season when often the vines are finished. White blossoms in August and September. I'll ask Mark, since he's a nurseryman too. Hardy in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia?
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Stephen's nodding his head. I think we have consensus here. There's 3 of us agree. It would probably be quite hardy there. Just remember, it likes some sun. While it's somewhat shade tolerant, it really needs at least half a day of sun.
It likes sun and good for twining, so if you have any fences, anything like that, that's a great vine to have. So I think you'll have good luck with it. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you very much.
Lynn in Oakville, Ontario, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a 13-foot and a 9-foot ivory silk lilac tree. Both of them came out last spring in bud. A week later, they came out in some very tiny leaves, and then they just stopped growing, just completely froze. We spent the entire summer with no buds, no leaves. We were suggested if we cut them back a little bit, they might come back next year. This is now next spring, and I'm wondering if you think they will come back.
I could toss the question to the floor. Stephen, any ideas?
It may be a soil problem. It's I've never really known the ivory silk to have huge problems.
Right.
They all have particular attributes that make them useful in a home lawn.
Something tells me you have examples of them outside.
We have examples of all of them here, Kevin. Come on, let's go take a look.
Good.
This is Kentucky bluegrass, probably the most commonly used grass, and certainly sodded lawns as well, for nicer seeded lawns as well.
Really, really lush, really full grass. This stuff is what you'd want to use if you were planting a new garden?
Exactly. I mean, certainly all sod is Kentucky bluegrass, and also grows well from seed and provides a nice sort of medium maintenance lawn. Not too much maintenance, but excellent color and texture.
People use this in certain styles of gardens, Rob?
Certainly in more formal gardens, you can use this, certainly cut it lower for a very formal look, like maybe in a rose garden or something like that. Or you can let it go up 2 to 3 inches for sort of a lower maintenance, but still nice colored, nice textured lawn.
How's this stuff for repair work in a garden?
Kentucky bluegrass sod, excellent for instant repair. If you're looking for an overseeded type repair, you're probably looking at perennial ryegrass. And we have some of that over here. Let's go take a look.
Great. Rob, I kind of see this as a please walk on the grass type of place.
That's right. This is perennial ryegrass, excellent grass for overseeding those damaged areas in your lawn. Germinates very quickly, comes up anywhere from 3 days, you'd normally 7 to 14 days. Only problem with it, it's only marginally hardy in most regions of Canada. Okay here in Southern Ontario, other areas I wouldn't recommend it.
But it's a real fast grower. What's its most common usage?
Used in sports fields because it's resistant to wear and tear, plus you can overseed it and keep it nice and thick. Also good in homes if you have a lot of kids or dogs running around your yard. Also a good spot for that sort of thing. Lots of resistance to traffic.
You brought up the dogs. I have a question for you. Urine burn, a common problem of a lot of people with pets. What can you do for it?
Well, other than keeping the dog off your lawn,
Yeah.
the best thing to do is if you spot a spot, give it give it a bit of wash out, lots of water to wash out those salts that are in the urine, and then overseed perhaps with the perennial ryegrass. This is creeping red fescue. It's a great grass for shady locations.
How's it do in the sun here?
Well, here in the sun, it sort of burns out a little bit, gets a little brown, but all of the fescues as a group are great for dry locations. And certainly a cottage or a place like that where you want a real low maintenance, dry spot, no irrigation, very low fertility, throw in some fescue.
Nice casual garden. And you know I'm going to point this out. People, even at the Institute, look at this. They can't rid themselves of these dandelions.
Sure, well, this is a low maintenance area. You can get rid of them easily using a herbicide, but if you have an aversion to using chemicals, we are working on a biological control for dandelions. It's a fungus that attacks them. It's going to come available in a little shaker, put them on the dandelions, it'll eat them right away, and we're expecting to have that available by around 2002.
And completely organic.
Yep.
Rob, there's one type of grass you haven't talked about yet. Let me go show you my favorite.
Okay, let's go.
Now, this is the type of grass I'm talking about. Hey, Rob, look at this. It's beautiful.
Great, isn't it?
Want to play 9?
No, it's, I got to go.
Okay. Thanks for the info. I'm just going to help myself, okay? Just play it alone. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Laura Langston in Victoria, and it's confession time. I'm one of those gardeners who likes to just get out and do things. I don't have a lot of time for pre-garden routines, including hand care. But my kids pointed out after last season's gardening that my hands looked pretty bad, and they were right. Well, vanity aside, hand care is important, and I've learned that it falls into 3 categories: priming your hands before you go out into the garden, protecting them while you're out there, and caring for them after you come in. The first step is using something called a barrier cream. Now, this is for men as well as women. This is not just a female thing. A barrier cream should contain lanolin or beeswax, and essentially it puts a film on your hands that protects your skin from the earth. It also prevents chapping and chafing once you put your gloves on. So it's just a matter of putting that cream on your hands, clean hands to start with, rubbing it around, and then it's time to grab your gloves. Think about what you're going to be doing in the garden, and you may need a couple of different pairs of gloves for different jobs. For instance, these etched grip rubber gloves are great for preventing slippage. They're good if you're not sure-handed or if you're working in the rain. The combination rubber and cotton gloves are excellent for grippage, but they'll also give you some ventilation on the top. Now, I like these orange gloves. They're cotton lined. They fit extremely well. They stretch to fit your hand. You can still feel what you're doing. They're great for pruning because they go up your arm. The only drawback to these is if they get punctured, you're going to get rain inside your hand. Suede is good. It gives some protection. It's good for heavier digging, for moving rocks, for some pruning, although the thorns can go through, and if they get wet, they can get hard. Cotton gloves are great for deadheading, and they offer protection for light jobs, but they're a little hard to fit. They're not contoured. Plain latex might be an option if you really want to feel the soil. They're excellent for transplanting. They don't offer any warmth, and they can be disposable, and whether that's good or not is up to you. And finally, deer skin or sheep skin are excellent. I like these as well in combination with the orange gloves. I can do just about anything with these. They give good blister protection for heavier jobs, yet they're light enough so that I can feel the transplant. So why bother with gloves at all? Well, if you have arthritis or skin conditions, gloves offer some protection. And even if you get a little scratch on your hand, it's good to have gloves on. For me, it was timing. Gloves make cleanup faster. They're also practical, give you better grip on your tools, and they give your hands and your arms protection if you're pruning or deadheading. But before you put your money down and buy a pair of gloves, try them on. The glove should fit. If they don't fit, even if they are the right glove for the job, they're no use to you at all. Once you've been in the garden and you've worn your gloves, it's time to come in and wash up. Don't use dish soap. That was my favorite thing to do, and I've learned that you need an abrasive soap, something gentle but abrasive. Green sand soap works really well, or loofah soap is also a good choice. Once you've washed up and your hands are clean, grab a little bit of cream, protect those hands once again, and then you're ready to sit down for the night with your favorite gardening book.
Coming up, a historic garden in Nova Scotia.
This is
is HGTV Canada.
Hi, my name is Stuart Heisler.
And I'm Kevin Allery, and we're in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And we're just outside of our garden, which was probably set sometime in the 1860s through the 1890s. And we're just in the process of starting to restore and discover what the original beddings and pathways of this Victorian garden were. The paths were pretty much the bones of the garden that we started to work with, because they were the easiest to find, but also the most troublesome, because they weren't well bounded and falling into the grass and that kind of stuff.
Also, these planters were here, so they kind of demarcated these large squares that we think the garden was probably originally laid out into these 4 large squares in a very traditional English-style garden, where they put them in 4 squares with completely different arrangements of plants. The planters also really established the shape of the garden, so especially when you view it from upstairs looking down, you could get a much better sense of the actual shape of it. These plants were spread throughout the garden. We weren't sure what they were. They bloom bright yellow in the spring with a flower that looks like a marigold, and the leaves we thought kind of looked like water lilies or something like that. And then one day at the gardening center I saw them with a label on them called marsh marigolds. Throughout the garden there's these parallel gravel paths. Over the years the gravel has migrated into the bed, so it was difficult to distinguish what was path and what was bed.
So as we were trying to dig up these beds and figure out where the gravel stopped and the bed should start, we were finding the beach stones and pulled them all up, and 2 problems were solved. One, what do you do with them, and how do we keep the beds neater and the stones better? So we lined them up and made them the border to delineate the path from the bed. Similarly, many of the beds are bordered or delineated by conch shells. And we're told by locals that frequently the boats, as they traded through the West Indies, would load up with conch shells as ballast and come back with that. And then again, what do you do with them? So it seems a lot of the gardens, or certainly around Lunenburg, have their borders etched with these lovely conch shells, which have a real weathered patina look to them.
So in amongst some of these weeds and other plants, we've got some herbs growing. We've got these Egyptian onions with their crazy little squirrely tops, and there's some chamomile back here. So we're going to try and establish this as an herb garden.
Well, this is another bed, or development spot that we could work through. In the spring, you get a real sense that it's probably square. The first thing that comes up is Solomon seal, which is a plant that we've got a profusion of. It has lovely little white flowers that hang from the bottom of the leaves. And then, of course, that burning red bush in the center. Again, I haven't a clue what it's called. And then there seems to be a little bit of a bordering of lilies around the edge.
This is pretty well what most of the garden looked like, just wild plantings. But in amongst here, there's daylilies. It's got 3 layers of petals, so unlike normal daylilies that just seem to have one layer of petals, these actually have 3 layers, and they have, this isn't quite out yet, but it's got brightly colored stamens inside with bright yellow pollen, so they're quite a spectacular and apparently quite a rare daylily. So we've got these tall, pink Dr. Seuss type flowers, so there's just a huge variety of things that we have yet to discover. It seems to be spend more time with a shovel and a wheelbarrow than with a gin and tonic in an easy chair. Yeah. But it's all worth it.
We'll be right back with more Canadian gardening.
So how was it?
Oh, it was sheer elegance. Pudge has a dining tent from Paris. She's got gargoyles from Italy. Her whole garden is just a scrapbook of her travels.
Oh, that's the way I feel. You know, the garden hose I got on that whirlwind trip to the hardware store, the rocks I collected on the half-day beach vacation, and then...
Kev, champagne is nice, but do you know what I'd really like now?
Probably some caviar.
No, I'd like a hot dog from the hibachi.
Really? Right on. All right. Well, good timing, because look what I'm cooking up right here. And for you, I even have some Dijon mustard.
Oh, yummy.
Which one do you want?
I want the one in the end, please. That nice brown one. For more information or a list of botanical names, please write to us at Canadian Gardening Television, care of HGTV Canada, P.O. Box 339, Don Mills, Ontario, M3C 2S7.
This is HGTV, Home and Garden Television Canada.
Hi, welcome to Grow It. I'm Jeff Cox. Today we're in a beautiful garden created by an artist, and you'll learn how to put artistic touches into your garden at home.
We'll find out how to test color schemes and plant combinations with container gardens, and how to enhance your garden's hardscape with artful touches. Later, you'll learn several simple and effective techniques to deal with snails. And we'll answer gardening questions like how to create beautiful hanging baskets. That and more today on Grow It, a gardener's guide.
We're here in Albany, California at the astoundingly beautiful garden of artist Keela Meadows. What she's done here and in back in this small little plot of land is absolutely gorgeous. Come and see.
I want it to be like you walked into an Impressionist painting. We have this wonderful light quality here in the spring, and so I wanted the garden to have that sparkly, watery kind of texture to it.
Keela Meadows was trained as an artist, and her home is still a working studio full of fanciful sculpture and paintings. But several years ago, she abandoned her career as an artist and instead decided to pursue her passion for gardening. Did you have painting training? Because the colors are incredibly coordinated in this garden.
Plants are the most wonderful teachers when it ever comes to paint, and I have plants teach me how to do it.
You're an artist. What can the average person do to bring an artist's color sense to their garden?
Well, I think there's several places to practice. One, I think picking bouquets and getting fine bouquets and looking at them with the color of the house, and also by working with containers.
So this is an example of how you test colors in containers.
Right, there's a whole color palette right here, the primary color being yellow, and working two yellows into the variegated foliage in this thyme here, and also just with the smaller variegated haribus.
I like the fact that you have large leaf plants and some very small leaf plants, as well as a nice color harmony.
This is a place where you can test those kinds of textures.
Uh-huh. And over here, the color scheme, describe that for me.
Well, I wanted to test gray foliage. And so here we have the gray foliage, and I want to see what kind of colors would look good with gray foliage. And so I chose to use these magenta kinds of pinks, because that contrasted with the gray and brings it out.
So that's woolly thyme there.
This is woolly thyme.
And there's a sedum.
This is a sedum. And we have a dianthus here, and this is Artemisia.
Beautiful. So there's silver and gray foliage, and then you use magenta with that.
Magenta with it. That makes this gray foliage more dramatic.
Uh-huh. And over here, I see we have a barberry with the dark leaf, and then you've kind of used this color to key the other roses and other colors in here, right?
There's so many foliage plants that have wonderful, subtle kinds of colors, and so then you can take the flowers and pick up these subtle colors so you see them much more. Another thing that you can do to pick up the subtleties of the colors and make your pot more artistic is to use something like a rock that has, you know, the same kind of subtle colors and put it in as part of your composition.
Yeah, there's kind of a mauve color to that rock that works real well with the barberry there. Do you ever base a color scheme on a great painting, for instance, a Matisse, and then you look at the colors he used in a painting, and then you reproduce those with garden flowers?
Yes. I love Matisse, and that has been a large influence in all my artistic endeavors. And you can do the same thing, actually. You can take some color chips, look at one of these paintings you love, match it up, go to the nursery, get plants, and put it in a container. I think of this as my Van Gogh color scheme, with the blues of the delphiniums coming to like the yellows that he painted in the wheat fields that are picked up in the columbine and come down into the Cicerentium stricta.
This is a very interesting part of the garden here because there's no water in it, but there's like a river of stones right through the center of the garden that suggests water. Over here you actually do have water in the garden.
We have this fountain here, which is made with the ceramic clay and a copper background.
And this is a recirculating pump, makes the water go around and around?
There's two circulating pumps in here.
And these women are, what, watering their garden? Or?
The inspiration from this painting came when I was a child. I used to like to play with the hose and make these diamond patterns in the air. So I call these like my diamond paintings. So if you look, all these women are holding hoses and making
diamond paintings. I like that. Now this is one of my favorite places in the whole garden. It's very simple. But look what you've done here. You used flagstone and bricks and cobbles and mixed them all up instead of doing what a lot of people would do, and that is just making a brick patio. What gave you the inspiration to do that?
Well, once again, I wanted to mix the colors and have them be painterly.
So it's a color idea.
And color and texture, and also bringing the rocks from the beds down into the patio.
Well, it's certainly a lot more interesting than just a plain brick patio, that's for sure.
It's also something which people can do much more easily.
People can do this at home in their own gardens for sure. Now let's talk about tiles. Starting over here with these caps on the fence here. Tell me about these tiles.
Well, actually, those tiles were very easy to make. I just took a 4x4 and slapped the clay over the 4x4 and cut it up. And you have tiles used very creatively in other parts of the garden, too. What is your idea there? Are you just trying to add some art to the garden, or? With the colors of the house, it was hard to bring blue in. Actually, with blue tiles, which are mixed into the pavings, I had this idea of wanting to bring the sky closer to the ground.
The most magical place in the garden is easily overlooked. It's a small secret garden tucked behind a bronze morning glory archway.
Let me show you that.
I can't wait to see this. A secret garden.
This is my secret garden, where I told you about the yellow colors. The foliage is yellow, the flowers are yellow.
Oh, it's beautiful in here.
You can come and sit down on a water lily petal bench.
Sunniest flowers in the whole garden are in here in the darkest, most secret part of the garden. I like that.
I just want that kind of yellow feeling to kind of just rise up and surround you.
It's beautiful in here. Just a nice place to come and be quiet.
Well, that's why this fountain is very quiet.
This whole place reminds me of being a kid.
Being a kid.
Well, don't you think one of the functions of art really is to try to wrap the whole life around, and the whole life includes our childhood. You know, we really lose a lot if we don't stay in touch with the playful part of ourselves. And, you know, your art is very playful.
A lot of this garden was for my inner child.
A walk through Keela Meadows Garden provides a rush of inspiration and reminds us that a great garden is ultimately a playground for the senses.
I like walking into this garden. I guess it's my personal vision of paradise for me. Then it's a place where I can go to lift my spirits and gain my sense of humor and feel like imagination is all around me.
Now it's time for questions and answers, where our experts around the country Help us solve those tough garden problems.
How can I create beautiful hanging baskets? For the answer, we go to the gardens of Sunset Magazine in Menlo Park, California, and senior editor Kathleen Brenzel.
Hanging baskets have a new look these days. They're coming in more varieties than ever, and I tell you, I just love to have hanging baskets in my patio for adding color. Take a look at this one. This is an old wire basket standard, but there's something different about it. It has these crowned arches that go up to the top, and you can train vines at them. It gives it kind of a formal look, like a topiary, but that's great. It combines beautifully here the petunias and the heliotrope, like a crown, a formal look for a formal garden. This one is beautiful because this combines, it's made of twigs, woven and painted, and it's lined with sphagnum moss and soil, and it gives a beautiful rustic look to just about any garden. A few things you need to know when you plant any hanging basket, and that is because they're up in the air, the wind blows around them, they dry out very quickly. You have to be sure that you water them regularly, and of course they're going to need more fertilizer. The more you water, the more you're going to need to fertilize. So I'd give it fertilizer, or maybe a fish emulsion once a week, something like that. What you want to remember though, just go out there, find the basket that suits your garden, pick plants for color that are most at home in that basket, and have fun with it.
What's the best way to train grapevines on a trellis?
There are lots of different trellising systems, and each one has a different purpose. But I'm going to show you an all-purpose trellising system that's good for wine grapes or table grapes. And it's called a 3-wire system. And it's relatively new. It does a lot of good things for your grapevines. First of all, of course, you put in your vertical posts, but then you use 3 wires, one at about 3 feet. As you can see, this horizontal wire is going along at about 3 feet off the ground. And then about another 1.5 feet above that is a second wire, and another 1.5 feet above that is a third wire. Now, when you prune your grapevines, all the buds that you're going to leave are going to be along the first wire. Each bud is going to throw out a green shoot in the spring. Here's one that's been thrown up by the grapevine. As you can see, it produces fruit clusters along its length, and as it grows and elongates, you can tie it up to the wires so that it goes vertically. See, here you don't even have to tie it up. It's used its little tendril to wrap around and tie itself. But if it's not tying itself and you need to tie it up, you could use a twist tie. Just do it lightly so that you don't squish the grapevine. All the shoots then are going vertical. This has a lot of good effects. It gets the leaves up in the sunlight and the air, prevents the development of powdery or downy mildew. The clusters then hang out in the bright shade or in the sunlight, and that hastens their ripening and makes sure that they get lots of warmth that develops their sugars. So my recommendation is use this simple 3-wire trellis system. It really works.
How can I protect my vegetable garden from rabbits? For the answer, we're going to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Bobby Jensen, a garden specialist.
Rabbits are great things to have around at Easter time, but they can destroy a garden overnight. What you want to do to protect a garden, I've had problems. I've had a cabbage patch where I couldn't get anything to stay without the rabbits. My grandmother told me a story that when she was younger, they used to use beef liver. The bad news is kids don't like it. The good news, rabbits don't either. Just add it to a gallon of hot steeping water. Let it sit there for an hour. After an hour, you're going to take it out and pour it off into a strainer to catch all that liver. And then take the liquid and put it in a mister. First of all, keep this mister and the extra liquid in your refrigerator in a nice cool place. And every time it rains, you have to reapply it. Believe me, this crazy concoction really does work. I've had a serious rabbit problem in my cabbage patch. And since using this 1 week ago, old Peter Rabbit hasn't come back to my patch.
Coming up next, surefire ways to deal with snails and slugs.
No matter where you live, if you're a gardener, sooner or later you're going to have a problem with snails and their little shell-less cousins, the slugs. These slimy little guys do this kind of damage to the leaves of your garden plants. You can see these holes here. And here's one of the culprits now. Here's a garden snail. And the slug's a very similar kind of creature. They're mollusks, like oysters and clams, only the slug doesn't have a shell. So what can we do to protect ourselves against these guys? Well, there are a number of things. First, one thing you can do, this garden is protected by a copper barrier. You can see this copper strip. Here's some still in the package, bright and shiny. And you can buy this at any garden store. Just tack it up along the top of your raised bed, and when the snail or slug crawls up there, its slime that it uses to slide over things creates an electrical potential on the copper that they don't like at all. They turn tail and go the other way. But here's a word of caution. If plants are falling over the copper strip, those snails and slugs can get around the copper by crawling up over them. So not like this. Keep this part clean. Keep this all free of any foliage that comes over. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is to use diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth, as you can see here, is a very soft, talc-like white powder, and it's the minute microscopic bodies of tiny little sea animals. And if you could see this under a microscope, you would see it's all filled with spines and sharp edges. So you take some and put it around the plant. Just make a little circle around the plant and make it all the way around, 360 degrees. Now, when the snail and the slug comes along and crawls over this, the diatomaceous earth's little spines and sharp surfaces puncture the bodies of the snails and the slugs, and they actually dehydrate. The water evaporates out of these creatures and they dehydrate. Another really good tip for controlling snails and slugs in your garden is to go to the part of the garden where you see a lot of damage and lay a board down on the ground. During the day, these soft-bodied creatures don't like to be in the sunlight because it dehydrates them. So they'll go under the board, and as you can see here, a whole bunch of them underneath here, and you can destroy them. You can lure them in by taking ordinary cat food, just putting a few pieces of cat food down along the board. And they love the smell of that, so they'll gravitate from all over the garden to come go under that board during the day, and that's where you can nab them. Now, another interesting thing is that snails and slugs both like the smell and the taste of beer. They're attracted to it. So after a hard night's work, they want to go get their beer. Sink a pie tin into the ground right to soil level and put some beer in it. And they'll crawl in there, and they get anesthetized by the alcohol and they drown in the beer. It's a very usable technique, and it really works. Another way to use that technique is to take an ordinary plastic bottle, such as this one, cut the top off, make sure that the cap is off so the hole is open, put it upside down so it forms a little funnel. Just put some beer in the bottom of this device, and the slugs will come along. They'll crawl up the sides, they'll crawl down through the hole, but they won't be able to get back out. They'll be anesthetized by the beer in the bottom, and they'll drown. Now, these are some harmless and yet very effective ways for you to control these animals in your garden. Remember, the copper strips, the diatomaceous earth, the board trap, so you can find them in the daytime, and use some beer traps to lure them in. Reduce their populations down to the level where they're no longer pests, but they just take the normal place in the life of the garden.
Now, a foolproof perennial that thrives in full sun or partial shade and loves rich, well-drained soil.
I'd like to introduce you to one of the most famous of all the perennials, the Shasta daisy. It has a beautiful, pure white petal, probably the purest white of any flower in the entire perennial kingdom. And of course, the beautiful golden yellow centers. It's the perfect daisy, but you know what? It's not really a daisy. It's a chrysanthemum. And it was originally hybridized by Luther Burbank back at the turn of the century. And Luther came up with this by crossing a Japanese chrysanthemum with a Native American chrysanthemum. These still are chrysanthemums, and like all chrysanthemums, you need to pinch them back early in the year and you'll get more flowers. So when they're about 6 inches tall, just pinch out the tips. Don't do it later in the year when they're flowering like this, but just when they're 6 inches tall. You'll double and triple the number of flowers. They really have no diseases or pests to speak of. They're pretty drought tolerant. They're easy to grow, and a nice group of them in your garden just produces a note of purity that you're going to love. So think about Shasta daisies when you're thinking about putting in a great perennial for midsummer color.
This
I have a theory why it feels so good to put our hands into the soil when we're gardening. Consider for a second an apple. Every atom in this apple started in the soil, came up through the tree roots, where it was transported to the growing apple, and finally here it is. And if I eat the apple, all those atoms then become a part of me. As a matter of fact, every atom in every living creature started in the soil. It's truly the source of us all, and when you think about it, it's the destiny of us all too. Living things kind of come out of the soil, they go back to the soil. It's the mother. So that's why it feels so good to put our hands in the soil, because the closer we are to the earth, the closer we are to ourselves. I'm Jeff Cox. Thanks for watching.
We're in Lake Wales, Florida, at the Bok Tower Gardens, and I'm with David Price, the Director of Horticulture. What part of the gardens are we in here, David?
Ed, we're standing at our Pinewood House, which is adjacent to Bok Tower Gardens. The Pinewood House was built in 1927 by C. Austin Buck as a winter retreat, and it was purchased by the foundation in 1970. We use it for our board retreats. We have other educational programs, chamber music here, and also tours of the house and grounds.
Now, tell me also, I noticed the landscaping is quite different all the way around this home.
Yes, it's an eclectic design of really a series of gardens, and it's in the classic Tuscan design with the upper level with the bosque and the alleys of citrus, and then where we're standing now with the terrace garden, the frog fountain behind us, and the grotto to our right. And then through this main axis goes through the center of the house, which the whole garden is actually balanced on this axis. And then out the back of the house, it's an informal design, much as a Robinsonian type English garden.
Beautiful. Tell me about the urns.
These are actually oil jars. The correct term is tinajones. They are olive oil jars brought from Spain in the 19th century. And also the 18th century. Olive oil was brought from Spain to Cuba, and then the oil was used, and these were disposable containers at the time. And then people in Cuba had used them as garden ornaments. C. Austin Buck was the vice president of Bethlehem Steel, and he was working in Cuba and really liked the Cuban, the Mediterranean style. And so when he built this house, he brought these jars here.
And of course, this is only one small part of the beautiful gardens here at Bok Tower Gardens. So tell us a little bit about some of the other areas that you have.
Well, at the gardens, we have quite a few distinct gardens. We have the historic landscape gardens, which surround the tower. We also have a wildlife walk at the Pine Ridge Nature Preserve. It's a 25-acre preserve that we are ecologically managing. Wildflower blooms are in the fall time, and then we have our visitor center where we have a little bit of history about the gardens and Edward Bach, and we have an English wall garden on the back side and some native plantings around.
I understand you also have an endangered plant species program.
Yes, Ed, we're a member institution of the Center for Plant Conservation, and we work to conserve rare and endangered plants. These are federally listed endangered plants that occur in Florida, and these plants are endangered of imminent extinction.
Thanks very much for sharing the garden with us, David. It's
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
And some native plantings around.
I understand you also have an endangered plant species program.
Yes, Ed, we're a member institution of the Center for Plant Conservation, and we work to conserve rare and endangered plants. These are federally listed endangered plants that occur in Florida, and these plants are endangered of imminent extinction.
Thanks very much for sharing the garden with us, David. It's
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. This is a great time of the year to give some thought to providing color on the patio or the deck. And containers are a great way to go about it. There's several different things to keep in mind, though. Let's talk about the container first of all. This container can withstand any plant now twice that height. Always keep that in mind, the container plus twice in height. In other words, I could use these two plants in the background in this container and it would work out great. My greatest temptation probably would be to use a plant like this that's in bloom. This is Rhododendron Blue Boy, by the way, a very beautiful plant. But instead, I'm going to choose a rhododendron that's not yet in flower. See, heavily budded. This is the front side, and you always want to keep that in mind. That's the back side. So we'll always turn it, so that it has the front side forward. Now, in addition, we always like to use foliage color. So this is an emerald gold euonymus. And see, this is a medium texture, and that's a fine texture, and we've got the leaf color as well. And then let's use a bold texture, and that would be the Viburnum davidi. So we have fine, medium, and bold texture, plus we've got some leaf color. That's really important. And then to go a step further on this, and I'll eventually plant these in so you can see the finished job, we'd add some summer color, or actually spring color. And here we have some beautiful color from the ranunculus, seedling ranunculus. And also we'd use probably a little bit of color from the Dusty Miller because the gray foliage adds such a bright color and, brightens it up during the summer or spring season. Also then the primroses would be great, and a little bit of blue of the pansies would be pretty. And in addition to that, maybe even a chrysanthemum to give us a little bit of color, and we'll intersperse that with the actual planting. So now let's put this all together so that you can see the finished job. And here are some pre-potted tulips. They'll add color to this container in just a few days. In fact, they're already budded. But now you can see I've got different foliage colors and foliage textures. This is the back side of the container, by the way. And look at here. We've used the Dusty Miller, the chrysanthemum, and of course the ranunculus. And then we've used the foliage color and the foliage texture. For example, the primrose is there, the Dusty Miller, and the pansy. And what a great combination. This is a rhododendron in the center called Blue Chip, which is blue in color. And right now is a great time to give some thought to planting up those spring containers.
The Winged Weeder solves gardening problems with an easy push-pull motion. The Winged Weeder makes seed furrows and covers the seeds. It lets you weed under fences and rocky soil and under bark. So give your hoe the heave-ho and get your hands on a Winged Weeder today.
To prune roses is March 1st.
No, Sisto, the best time is February 15th. I disagree with both of you on that, but I think there's one thing we can agree upon, and that's Cedar Grove compost, right?
Oh la la, I agree. Cedar Grove compost has the nutrients the plants need.
And Cedar Grove compost is recycled and was approved by the Agriculture Department's Organic Food Program. So take it from us. Use Cedar Grove compost.
We do.
The
time of the year to give some attention to spring pruning. And probably two of the most misunderstood plants when it comes to pruning are junipers, like this juniper tam, or rhododendrons. So today let's concentrate on those two. This one I think is really easy to prune. This is a simple process. All you really need to do is to pull the tip like so. I've pruned that branch now, and the secondary growth will develop. So I can do that, on all of these. Just simply pull the tips like so. It's a real easy process. Now, if you need to prune back further, pull up the branch like this and look for a point where there's a little branchlet off on each side and make your pruning cut. Now see, I've shortened that, but at the same time you can't tell that it's been pruned. What normally happens is people will go in and prune them like so. Now, all of those little tips will turn brown, and this plant then becomes very ugly. So it's better if you can just take the minute, once again, let me show you. Look for where it branches here and branches there and make your pruning cut, like so. And by the way, you could also make a cutting from this tip if you want to. Now, let's take a look at the rhododendron because that's an entirely different plant. The best time to prune rhododendrons is after they've finished flowering, but you can prune them any time as long as you have a sharp pair of pruning shears in hand. I like to let them bloom though and then cut them back. And you can see this particular plant has been pruned in the past, and you'll notice that it's regrowing with new growth. Actually, look down here. See all the new growth coming up? Eventually we can get rid of all of these old branches on the rhododendron. But look what's happening back here with the plant. See, that foliage is really bad, and the plant has flowered out earlier. It's not in good health, so I've fertilized it, by the way, already, which is really important. But any of these branches, now that they're through flowering, well, I didn't even have to prune it. It broke off. Gives you an idea of how bad a shape it's in. So get that off, and then that'll help renew the growth below. Any dead or decayed, like this material back in here, will also take off right away. And you want to do that at any time throughout the entire year. Anytime you find a dead, decayed, or broken branch, get it off of your plants, and then the plants will renew themselves. But see, here are some other branches that are not really doing well. And if we get these branches cut back after they finish flowering, then this renewed growth from below is going to renew the whole plant. It's really going to look good. And you can do it at any time, but on both the rhododendrons and the junipers, spring and after the rhododendrons bloom is a good time to prune them. Right now is a good time to plant out your perennial vegetables. And perennial means that they'll come back year after year. So you're going to enjoy a harvest from them for many years to come. The asparagus is a great vegetable. These are 2-year-old starts, and usually they do not bear until the 3rd year. But if you get some spears the 1st year, I'd go ahead and cut them. And of course the rhubarb is a great perennial vegetable. This is one that you want to set off to the side of the garden. In fact, I'm not going to plant it here because it gets so large. In fact, you may even want to put it in a container if you have limited area. Now, you'll notice that I have garlic here. It's too late to plant garlic. Remember, we plant garlic when we plant out the tulips and the daffodils and all the spring flowering bulbs, but we plant them in the fall. So now's not a good time to plant them. This, of course, is another great perennial vegetable that sometimes we don't even think about, the regular globe-type onions. And the onion sets, of course, in most gardens will remain all winter long and do become a perennial. Then in addition to them, of course, are the shallots. Shallots, of course, in the onion family also, an excellent perennial vegetable to put into the garden. Now, last but not least, the horseradish. One thing to remember about horseradish is it can become a terrible nuisance. So I would, by all means, if you're going to plant it in a container or plant it somewhere where you can confine the root system, because otherwise it just really takes over. Now, let's just take a minute and plant out the asparagus, because I think that's probably the most misunderstood of all the perennial vegetables. In fact, the directions here say prepare a hole about 12 inches deep and 12 inches wide. That's too deep for asparagus. We want to plant the asparagus much shallower than that. So, here we go. Here's the root system. Ooh, this has got some leggy growth on it, which really isn't all that desirable, but that's okay. Let's take that one. You'll notice the new growth on top here is what we'll do is I'll first of all put some fertilizer here in the hole and just mix it in a little bit. And then I'll take that root system and spread it out about 2 inches below the ground. See, that's where the mistake is made on this. Very often it's recommended that you plant them 10 or 12 inches deep, but you don't want them that deep at all. You want them very, very shallow. So let me do another one. Here's the root system. Primarily hangs down, doesn't it? We'll just put it down 2 inches below the ground and pull the soil in over the top of it. Very quickly I'll do, whoops, this one's a little bit rotted in the ground. So let's just spread those roots like so. and about 2 inches below ground level. It's that easy, and now's a great time to plant those perennial vegetables. Looking for an easy way to control those creepy crawly slugs or snails? Corey's has the answer. Corey's family of slug and snail control products now includes the famous original English formula in granular form, Corey's new easy-to-apply liquid, and Corey's pellets. And if you're having trouble with insects too, then you need Corey's liquid or granular, Corey's snail and insect killer, or their bug, snail, and slug bait. Pick some up today.
Throughout history, man has struggled against the elements to bring the natural look of stone into the garden.
Today, it's easy to accent your garden with the hand-carved look of Roman stack stone. Now raised gardens, borders, and retaining walls are quick and easy to install. Achieve the look of traditional stone with the modern convenience of Mutual Materials Roman stack stone interlocking design.
Look for Roman stack stone at your local garden center.
Don't your roses deserve the very best? Hi, I'm Carrie Jordan, creator of Tarosa, the ultimate rose food. I've spent over 20 years developing the perfect food for your roses. Roses fed with Tarosa's rich organic-based blend have won Queen of Show at numerous competitions. And you need only apply Tarosa once a year. Now it's easy to make roses the treasure of your garden with Tarosa, the ultimate rose food.
While my husband Bob here takes care of the lawn, he's leaving the flowers and garden to me. That's because a few years ago, I discovered Preen, America's favorite flower and garden weed preventer. Preen's a breeze to use. Just sprinkle the granules into the soil and you're done worrying about weeds for months. And look how beautiful this garden is. It's simple. Preen, no weeds, no work, plenty of compliments, guaranteed. Hey, King, how's that lawn coming? Sorry, ladies, he's taken.
Do you have a condition like this in your tree? These are what are called water sprouts. And as what happened to this tree, we had a very heavy ice storm, and this branch needed to be cut off. And all this surge of energy comes up in the spring, and no place to go. It goes into these water sprouts, which sometimes are 10 to 15 feet long, and they just ruin the shape of the tree. So the best thing for you to do is to eliminate them. And I want you to see that from below, and this is normally what happens. You're usually not up on a ladder like I am now. You cut them from below. And look what happened here when I did that. That left a stub that long. Now is what happens next year, instead of having one water sprout, this is going to have at least 3. And you do that 2 or 3 years in a row, and you're going to all of a sudden from that one point have 50 water sprouts instead of 1. So it's very, very important that we go in and actually remove that water sprout from the point at which it originates. And since I'm up here, I'm going to use just a regular pair of pruning shears. See, get it down right to bare nubbins, so there's no chance of it re-sprouting. That's the critical thing. Now here, notice already from this one point, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 water sprouts. Okay. So, in this case, I'm instead going to take a saw and actually go in and saw this off. Get rid of it completely. That's essential, again, that you get it back to the point where it originates. Or instead of 6 here, we're going to have probably 24, maybe even 50. So we just take this off all the way back to the point at which it originates. And that's what you really have to keep in mind with these water sprouts. And you'll notice down the way here that there's some little tiny ones coming. Boy, get those off too, or you're going to be in real trouble. And it just will absolutely ruin the shape of the tree if they're left for any length of time. But it's that little stub that really becomes a problem. And that's why it's so important that you get it off completely. Now on large ones like this, since I'm up in the tree, is what I'll do is to go in. There's 2 of them here, actually. This one I can get with my hand shears. But this one I'll actually go in again and remove it with this pair of lopping shears from the actual point at which it originates. And even then, see what happened? There's a little bit of a stub. and we'll need to check that really closely next year to see if any new buds have developed. And if that's the case, then we have to go in with a saw and actually remove it. So take out a little bit of time, and it doesn't matter what month of the year it is. As soon as you see them appear, get the water sprouts out of the tree. It's spring, and time to think about those late spring and summer flowering annuals that provide so much color in the garden. And these are the basket stuffers from Skagit Gardens. Look at the beautiful foliage colors and the different textures, and so many of these plants flower as well. In fact, let's take a close look at just a few of them. For example, this is Silver Brocade Dusty Miller, and this will cascade down over the edge of a basket beautifully. And the gray foliage, of course, brings out the greens and the goldens and all the rest. Here's another nice low-growing plant. This is called Creeping Charlie, and it'll hang down. In fact, in a hanging basket, it'll come all the way to the ground in one season, and very often winter is over as well. And of course, the different varieties of vinca are really great as well, particularly because of the variegated foliage, the blue flowers, and the fact that they're evergreen, so they'll come back year after year. And then up front here, this is just coming into bloom, but that's Bacopa. And Bacopa is just covered with white flowers. And it, too, is a trailing vine, so it's really a nice one. And look at the texture of the lotus vine. And you know, it has a flower like a pea. It's red in color and really stands out above that gray foliage. And then one of my favorite varieties of fuchsias is this one way back here. This is a variety called Gartenmeister. And the flowers are orange in color when they open, and with this deep green foliage. What a great combination. And they'll flower right up until frost. They're really a very easy plant to maintain. Look at this, a little bit different flower, isn't it? This is Bluebird Nemesia, another one of the beautiful basket stuffers. And as you can see, what a great combinations these make. And when you're putting together your basket, here's what the growers do. They put all the labels together, so you'll know what the plants are in case anybody asks you. All these plants, these basket stuffers, are grown by Skagit Gardens, and they're available at your local nursery or garden center. Once upon a time, if you wanted to fertilize, you had two choices: easy-to-use chemicals or harder-to-use organics. Not anymore. Introducing new natural organic Alaska Dry fertilizers from Alaska Fish Fertilizer Company. Just measure it out, sprinkle it on, and water it in. No muss, no fuss. Now fertilizing is even easier. The new natural organic Alaska Dry fertilizers are available in 7 different formulations at your local garden center now.
At Stanco, we know what you want, to relax and enjoy your lawn and garden. That's why our vinyl fences and decks are so popular. These vinyl products are as tough as they are beautiful. They'll last for decades because they don't peel, blister, splinter, or discolor over time like wood can. That means minimal maintenance and more time for you to enjoy your own piece of the great outdoors. Call 1-877-4STANCO for lasting solutions to your fencing and garden needs. Vinyl arbors, trellises, decks, fences, and more. All from the experts at Stanco. Quality products for a quarter century.
Bernie's Nursery at Walt Disney World Resort at Epcot, and I'm with Dave Forehand, the horticulturist. Dave, what part are we in here?
Well, this is part of the agricultural display here in Epcot in the Future World area, and this is called the Land Pavilion. We're showcasing agricultural technologies and techniques within the auspices of the greenhouse here.
What basically is happening with these units that are passing us?
Well, right behind us we have our, what we refer to as our aeroponics system. It's a variation of simple hydroponics. Instead of the roots being immersed in water, we pulp or spray water with nutrients on the roots of the plants. And that's what we see with the conveyors moving behind us. It's the plants that are part of that system.
Now, what's the goal of all this area?
Well, the land in general is here to highlight advances in technology and the success in agriculture, not only in greenhouse production of crops, but also in field production around the world. We have different biomes that showcase different parts of the world, like the tropics, temperate zones. And we highlight the things that are going on in those areas of the world.
Do you have any partnerships here with
We
this
do.
project?
We work with other groups. For instance, we have a working relationship with NASA, the Plant Science Group, or the Life Sciences Group over at Kennedy Space Center, looking at ways to grow plants in space, and we highlight some of those systems as they put them together over there. And we've had that relationship for quite a few years here.
Now, why would NASA be interested in growing plants in space?
Well, if they're going to ever have a space station, we're going to have to grow some food there. And so to do that, you've got to have some way to grow that. And they feel like some type of hydroponic technique is probably going to be the best way to grow plants in space.
Sure. What are the applications now throughout this? How would this be used in commerce?
Well, what we're showcasing here is just plant production. Herbs, smaller vegetables are growing. Other greenhouses, we have larger vegetable crops, and we're just showcasing techniques that are used in greenhouse production. Parts of the world, it's very popular to grow crops in greenhouses.
Are there any challenges here?
Well, our biggest challenge, honestly, are insects. Here in Florida, we're blessed with many, many insects, and to control those takes a lot of effort and a lot of science, actually.
Oh, I'll bet. What are the growing mediums you're using here?
Well, we are always experimenting with new ones. We've used rock wool, which is a volcanic-type material. Looks a lot like a big sponge, perlite, and we're looking at a new one called coconut core. It's made from coconut fiber. It's actually organically based, but it's from the waste industry of the coconut industry over in Asia, and we're looking at using that as a substitute for peat moss.
Dave, what do you do with all these crops?
Well, once we harvest them, they go to the restaurants here at Epcot. The chefs here produce really nice food products out of the fresh herbs and all the vegetables that we're able to harvest. So we're not just growing these for showcase, we're actually using them here in Epcot as well.
Thanks, Dave. That's all the time we have today. Hope you can join me at the same time next time for Gardening in America. And remember, our relationship with the planet today is tomorrow's future. Have a great week.
This garden brought to you by the Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
Having an elegant tabletop for your Easter dinner doesn't mean you have to run out and spend a lot of money. In fact, I'm going to show you how you can take your everyday dishes and really dress them up with plants in bloom growing in your garden. I think you're going to be surprised just how easy it is, and look how beautiful it's going to turn out. The first thing we're going to do is create a name card. This is very simple. What you need to do is stop by the craft store and pick up these little grapevine wreaths. And you can see what I've done is I've taken two and glued them together. And what I want to do now is to place them on top of a saucer, or you can use a lid from a margarine container, or even a terracotta saucer. But just place that, and I'll use a hot glue gun here. Put the glue on and be real generous with it. Just put it around the edges here. And then pop the wreath on top, and we're set. That's the base. The next step, you'll need some sheet moss. What we're going to do is take bits and pieces, glue and tuck this in and around the nest. Yay! All you need to do is take one of your dyed Easter eggs, take a metallic pen, write the person's name. This looks great as it is, but if you want to give it a little sparkle, then you bring in the glitter. Before you add the glitter, spray the egg with hairspray. That way the glitter will have something to stick onto. Now just sprinkle on the glitter. This is very fine glitter and it's iridescent. Now just place the egg into the nest, very gently of course. Then taking your spring flowers, cut off little blossoms and tuck them into the nest. Isn't that sweet? The next thing we're going to create is the centerpiece. And really the technique is the same as it was for the place cards. The only difference is size. Here we have a larger saucer for a base. We've got a larger grapevine wreath, and in the center I have a dish with oasis foam. This is where the flowers are going to go. There now, doesn't this look nice? For the final touch, go ahead and take some of your dyed eggs and place them in the arrangement. This will tie the whole thing together. The napkin ring is really quite simple. All you need to do is take some nice thin ribbon, tie it around the linen. I've added a satin bow, a sprig of flowers, and we're set to go. Very simple look. Now my votive, you can see I took some sheet moss, took the clear glass votive, which I added a little bit of the glitter, put it right on top. We're set to go. Now that we've got all the elements, let's put it all together. Now, didn't this turn out nice? And keep in mind, most of the materials came from the garden. The flowers, the greenery. In fact, I think I spent probably less than $20 to create this tabletop. Great idea. And if you'd like more information, be sure to check out my website at www.rebeccasgarden.com. Next, if you want beautiful pressed flowers without fuss, I've got a hot tip that will save you time. And later, an urban garden where young gardeners grow in more ways than one. Well, by now you know how much I love to grow flowers. I also enjoy pressing them as well. But let's face it, sometimes pressing can be a long, tedious process. Well, not any longer. I have a very simple technique that will press flowers in literally minutes. First of all, you need fresh flowers. What I'm going to do is just take a couple of samples here. I'll try these delphiniums. Once you get the flowers, we're going to place them onto a microwavable plate. But before you lay them down, make sure you add a couple layers of either napkins, newspapers, or some kind of blotting paper. Place the flowers down so that they're not touching, and add a couple more layers of paper. On top of that, we need to weigh it down. You can use a cooking stone, a pizza press, or in this case, I'm using a stepping stone that I use as a trivet. Now this is ready. We're going to pop it in the microwave, and in minutes, we'll have dried flowers. Start off by setting your microwave for 2 minutes. Then continue to check the flowers every couple of minutes. The time it takes to pressure flowers will depend on the type of flower you choose and the power of your microwave. Now, these delphiniums have been in the microwave for about 3 minutes. When you remove the stone, make sure you use some mitts because it can be quite hot. Let's pull it apart and see what we've got. Oh, yes. Look at that. After 3 minutes, these delphiniums are beautiful and ready for my next craft. You know, when I was a kid, I always took gardening for granted. But for some kids in the city, they don't get that opportunity. And luckily for them, there are urban gardening programs that allow them to get their hands dirty. I had a chance to meet some of these kids. They're adorable, and who knows, they might just be the future gardeners of America. It's a busy day in the city. As the cars whiz by, these kids don't even seem to notice. They're more concerned about the bunny that's in their vegetable patch.
Rabbit! They got a rabbit!
After all, they don't want him eating the vegetables they've spent so much time planting and growing, especially now that it's harvest time.
This is the lettuce and some of the tomatoes I picked in. I got purple ones and green ones.
To see how excited they are when they run up to the garden and see what they can harvest right away. That, oh my gosh, look at that tomato. And they're so excited about that they've done it themselves.
Sue Nilsson has spent about 8 years teaching young kids how to garden. This special inner-city garden class is offered through the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. It's part of an award-winning program that makes kids feel more a part of the earth than the pavement.
What I want to do is set the kids up for success when they come in to garden. And so I want to make sure that they aren't too overwhelmed by having too big a garden. So we start out by measuring the kids. And you just take a piece of string and measure how tall they are. And with that, you're able to say, oh, well, here we have a Melissa-sized garden.
Once the kids have their garden plots laid out, the planting begins. Here again, Sue has some great advice for motivating young gardeners.
I like using the plants that have big seeds for the littlest kids. Things like the beans and squash and sunflowers are nice size so that the kids' dexterity makes it easy for them to plant.
Sue also teaches the kids how to use their fingers as a planting guide. That way, they have a measuring device with them all the time.
We're growing sunflowers, zucchini, tomatoes, flowers, beans, cabbages.
Once these young kids finish this program, many of them are bitten by the gardening bug and eventually move into the Market Gardeners group. Here, Director Tim Kenny offers teenagers the chance to apply their gardening skills to the working world.
So it's that transition from learning something and then using that skill to make some money. So for many of these children, it's the first time they've had a job.
The job involves not only planting and harvesting vegetables, but also selling their produce to local restaurants. It's a great experience for the kids and their parents.
When I first started, I didn't know how to plant vegetables and stuff. It makes them feel responsible, you know. And they look so much, forward to it, you know. It's like gardens, and they tell me things that I never knew, you know, especially about plants and about bees. What I see most about the kids being surprised is how they pick it. It's like with the zucchini, you have to turn it, and that surprised a lot of kids in the kids' garden. It's like, all you have to do is just turn it, and it comes right out.
It's obvious. If you plant the seed at an early age, whether they're kids from the inner city or anywhere else, eventually they too will grow and blossom, and the rewards can be endless.
You can work in an inner city neighborhood and have children respond to working in the garden with all the wonderful things that happen, wondering at vegetables and nurturing vegetables and building self-esteem by the success of growing a vegetable and then taking it home and the pride that comes with bringing dinner home with a big bag full of beans, green and yellow and purple ones, and bring those home and have them on the dinner table.
Next, meet one of the oldest gardeners in America who brought us the first yellow Siberian iris. And later, don't call it junk, it could become just the right gadget for your garden. It's a diagnosis that changes your life forever. What's the fountain of youth? I think I found it here in a garden on the coast of Maine.
The man who is the living proof is Currier McEwen, a legend in the iris world. In fact, he created the first yellow Siberian iris along with 200 other varieties that nature couldn't even produce. At 96 years old, you'd think he'd been gardening all his life, but Currier's passion for irises didn't start until he was almost a half a century old. As a rheumatologist doing medical research and seeing patients, gardening was not on the top of his list. But one day, he received an iris catalog in the mail.
That happened to come to us by mistake. It wasn't really meant for me. It was, so I gave it back to the postman the next day. And he said, oh, I know, doctor, but there is no such address, and it's a Mac name, so I left it here. And there was no more sense in my starting with this particular flowers than the fact that they were in that catalog.
And start he did. He joined the Daylily and Iris Society and learned about hybridizing.
And of course I've been doing research most of since I finished medical school. And I was so interested in that, so I decided this is for me.
Since bearded irises were more popular among hybridizers, Currier took on the challenge of working with the smaller, more delicate Siberian and Japanese irises.
I want to see if we can't, by combining these two different types, a wine red with a less wine red, to get something that may be closer to this.
Is this your goal?
Well, that'd be just great if we could do that. They don't already exist. And for the hybridizer, what you're really interested in is what doesn't exist yet.
And wait till you see all the others that exist. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They're Currier's creations. It started with the world-famous Butter and Sugar, the first yellow Siberian iris. Some of his most recent new breeds include Maine Charm, Blue Falls, Fourfold Pink, and Japanese Marble.
Let me just say...
Isn't that a beauty?
It's absolutely stunning.
This will be an award winner, I know. So maybe about 2000, this will be on the market.
You're going to be going hot in 2000.
2000.
How does that feel that the flowers you've created will be here forever?
It's nice. It not only do I have the happiness of knowing that these babies of mine are really around the world, but in addition to that, the breeding line is still being used to make new ones.
The breeding line will continue thanks to many of Courier's protégés, including Sharon Whitney. She's been working with Courier for 17 years, learning from the master. Courier considers Sharon the future of his iris empire.
He's taught me basically everything I know about the irises. He's taught me about how to grow them. He's taught me about his methods of hybridizing and his hybridizing goals.
And it's clear the learning never stops.
Rebecca, I want to emphasize the important difference between the care and planting that the beardless irises need compared with that of the bearded irises. The beardless ones have to be kept moist. They can't be allowed to dry out the way in the stores or even after they're planted, the way the bearded ones can. The other big feature is that the bearded iris is planted very near the surface with the top just at the surface.
And the little roots are underneath the plant, so they're shaded by the rhizome.
Each time they create a new breed of iris, Courier and Sharon have fun naming them. This beautiful purple one needs a name.
Well, I think, you know, Rebecca's a pretty name.
Rebecca's a great name. Don't you think?
That's what I was thinking.
You're thinking that?
Well, Rebecca's probably been taken.
Okay, let's think of something nice, like beautiful Rebecca.
There you go. All his life, Courier has known how to be young at heart. He didn't retire until he was 70 years old, and now at 96, he's still working 10 hours a day in his garden. What is it you think that has allowed you to live this wonderful, healthy life and live to be 96 years old?
Well, I think this has a lot to do with it. Look, the thing crosses I made just now that you helped me with, it'll be 3 years before I really evaluate that thing. So I'm at 96, I'm looking forward to 3 years from now, you see.
Do you like getting your hands dirty?
Oh, yes, of course. And they are most of the time.
For more information on Courier McEwen's irises, check out the spring issue of Rebecca's Garden magazine. Next, create a new gadget for your garden out of your recyclables. Drag your cart to the curb, you may want to dig around. You'd be surprised to find out just how many items in this bin can be put to good use in your garden. Let's see what we've got here. If you hate pulling weeds, I've got good news. Using your newspaper. Just take about 6 layers, put this into your garden where you don't want the weeds to grow. They're smothered out. Your garden will be great, and by the end of the season, this decomposes into the soil. So what about water bottles? Well, these make excellent seed starting kits. All you need to do is cut the bottle in half, add some holes in the bottom. You can plant your seeds in the bottom half. The top makes an excellent cover for a greenhouse. Now, if you have film containers, these are excellent to put dried seed and store them until next year. They're airtight, they're dark, keep it in a cool location, make sure you mark the top, and you're set to go next year. Now, if you've had problems with cutworm in the past, you know those worms that eat your broccoli and cauliflower, then you want to hang on to your tuna cans or your toilet tissue rolls. These are excellent barriers for those young transplants. Simply remove the bottom, sink these around the plants. The cutworm's going to have to die someplace else. And what about those old bleach bottles? If you cut out one side, they make a super scoop. Now this thing, what am I going to do with this? No, you know, this might make a super bowl. So you just never know what you might find in your recycling bin. Now, if you're interested in the tabletop ideas, let me give you a few reminders.
You can create the nested name cards by gluing 2 tiny grapevine reeds together. Clusters of moss will camouflage the grapevine while adding texture to the nest. Glue the nest onto a small saucer or lid, then place a decorated egg with a name printed on it in the nest. Spritz with a little hairspray, sprinkle it with glitter, and you're set to go.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful Easter. I'm Rebecca Coles. Until next time, keep those hands dirty, but not for dinner. Rebecca Coles on the road in sunny Florida here at Walt Disney World. We're going to take a look at gardeners who grow fruits and vegetables in water. It's a technique called hydroponics. It's a great way to garden without getting your hands dirty. And later, plant markers from tiny terracotta pots or ceramic tiles with brass. Plus colorful annuals in beautiful combinations. Next time on Rebecca's Garden.